You're listening to the Mystic Menagerie podcast, your regular descent into the world of alternative entertainment, art, and culture. Bolt the door, light the fire, and pour yourself a glass of Virgin Rouge, and let your hosts, Dan Baines and Lord Freddie Valentine, guide you through the Stygian depths of your darkest delights. Warning. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to the Mystic Menagerie podcast. This is our December edition. It's now the 10th of December 2014, and I'd like to introduce myself, Freddie Valentine, and of course Mr. Dan Baines.
Hi there, Freddie. You okay?
Fantastic. Yeah, we've got a good show lined up today, haven't we? Because people have been asking on like the cafe and places like that, so you can have some special guests and stuff like that. And today we've got a very special guest, haven't we?
We certainly have. Yeah, we've got none other than Reece Shearsmith, who's going to be dropping in later on and talking to us about his latest Indiegogo project based on the Borley Rectory, which is very exciting. And we really appreciate him coming along and having a chat to us. We know he's a very busy guy, and we're overwhelmed when he said he agreed to an interview. So that is going to be the highlight of the show. So it kind of cuts down the amount of chit chat that we're going to have today, Freddie, because that interview is quite substantial, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah, and he's one of the best guests that we could have. Is somebody I really would like as a guest because his work is fantastic. Do you know what I mean? I'm a huge admirer of the stuff he produces, and so to have someone like Reece who's very not only producing great work himself, is very much into the sort of dark side of things.
Definitely,
it's fantastic to have him on the show. Yeah. And of course we're recording this now from a new location, aren't we, Dan?
We are. Yeah. Well, as I said in the few previous episodes, that people were willing to donate money to enable us to continue doing the podcast, and it just so happens that some very rich magician has listened to the last podcast and realised that me and you live sort of as the crow flies, not very far away, but because we're sort of stuck on the M25, it's difficult for us to get together and record the show. So he's actually donated his rambling Gothic mansion to us. He's got no one to hand his beloved mansion to. And it's now ours, and we're sat now in front of the log fire in the main hall. Me and Freddie are sat side by side in front of the fire, and we're recording the podcast right here for you from the new Mystic Menagerie Mansions.
I'm glad we've got the fire on because it is freezing here, And when I first pulled up, it's like the one, the film Casper.
Yes.
It's like the one at the start of that. It's just so falling apart. And there is some weird bloke, a gardener, I think, or something he is, wandering around the back of the grounds. But there's that hut thing. I haven't been there yet. But it is a great, creepy place to be. It's not been looked at or touched for years. It's practically falling apart.
It is. It's perfect for us. And as we sit here now, we've got the sort of the bad taxidermy hanging over the fireplace. It is your typical Gothic mansion, and we couldn't wish for anything better.
No, I'd like to say thanks.
Oh, did you hear that? I think that's my pet raven I've got now, because you've got your budgie. So
that's right.
Yeah, I opted for the raven this time.
There's a few outside actually, just circling around anyways. But it's great to be in the mansion, and it's. I'd like to thank he wants to remain anonymous, but we'd like to thank him anyway. We won't say his name, but we'd like to thank him anyway for the loan of the mansion itself.
It's going to be a bit like an episode of. It's going to be like the Christmas special of Morecambe and Wise, when there's knocks at the door, and we go and special guests come into the show.
Like Noel's house party.
Noel's house party. That's
here comes Blakey from one of the buses. Fantastic. That kind of thing,
Yeah.
But we'll have guests, definitely. And it's time also to talk about the we haven't discussed it before, is the intro to the show.
Yes.
Which,
as we've got a house, it's only fitting that we actually do some housekeeping while we're here. First of all, the music that you hear at the beginning of every single show, that is by Freddie Valentine himself. I believe it's off one of your albums that's available on Amazon at the moment.
Well, I did this as a special track because I had some albums out. One's come out this year, one's come out next year, of a group, like a project called the Emperors of Nice. And the first one's very much a poppy sort of hippie sort of album. The second one's very dark and quite intense. But we've got a SoundCloud. If you look up Emperors of Nice, and I did the Mystic Menagerie theme as especially for the show. It was written for the show especially. but there's a free download of it on SoundCloud. So if people want that creepy music on their iPhone or computer, whatever, or if they're old-fashioned, burn it onto a CD or wax cylinder disc if they're that way inclined. But it is on SoundCloud, and if you look for Mystic Menagerie theme or Emperors of Nice, it should come up on there. You can hear some of the other stuff that I've done as well. So yeah, I think I'm quite pleased with that bit of music.
It's excellent. Yeah, it fit. You know, as I said, we needed a signature theme for the show, and I left you to it, and you came back with that, and it's perfect. And I think you've posted a link to it on the Mystic Menagerie Facebook page as well.
I have. So if anybody wants to download the track, I'll put it as a free download. So yeah, that's our little gift to the listeners as well. If they want that song, rather than pay for it, it's a freebie, so they can download the tune. And it's without the voiceover; it's just the actual music itself. So
excellent.
But we've got the voiceover, of course. E.R. Perkins is a great voiceover.
Yeah, we can't thank E.R. Perkins enough for his amazing voiceover he's done. He's also done a few voiceovers for the small interludes in between sections, and he's a professional recording artist anyway, and he just offered to do it for free and to support the podcast, and you know, our big thanks go out to him.
Definitely, and he's got a great voice. He's got one of those voices that it just suits itself to that kind of. I'm not saying he's got a voice for radio, but I mean that kind of dramatic.
That's us. We've got the voices for radio.
Yeah, I mean for film trailers, that kind of thing's the perfect voice for what we want to do. You know, it's got that tone, the authoritative, creepy tone to it, and it's fantastic. Just so I have to give big thanks to him for that, because it's fantastic. So, and he'll be appearing on the show as well with something a little extra for people as well.
We've got something later on in the show. We've got E.R. Perkins doing a recital of one of his favourite poems, which is a very eerie piece, and we'll actually have that on the show later on towards the last quarter of the show. So that's something you definitely want to stay tuned in for.
And although we're now a podcast rather than a sort of a magazine, the back issues are still available, aren't they? They're all still available if people want them.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, if you go to the Lebanon Circle website, if you just type in Lebanon Circle into Google, Lebanon is in the place and circle is in the shape. That is my business, which is a prop and illusion design business. But if you go onto the main page and look at products and scroll down, you'll see there's a section called the Mystic Menagerie, and every single issue that we produced is available there. And there is also a bumper pack where you can buy all 14 previous issues for a mere I think it's £35, which, you know, with all the amount of reading material you get there in terms of interviews, magic, reviews, it'll keep you going for months on end, and I think that's sort of 4 years worth of publications we've got there.
A lot of hard work's gone into that, and that bundle is like a feast, isn't it? All at once, it's like an overdose of bizarre. So if someone buys that bundle, their soul will be very dark over that weekend, or those they decide to sort of absorb that, But I feel that it's a good separate deal up. We've been going for a few years now, and there's a lot of stuff we've done in that over the years. There's articles about different things, supernatural, with great interviews of people, pieces people have contributed. I think it's packed more than most books, to be fair.
Definitely. Yeah, it's definitely a great deal, and you can snap it up right now. Make a good Christmas present for someone. Obviously, if they've got an iPad, I wouldn't recommend it for Kindle, because with me being the art editor on there, I kind of went to town on making it colourful and very pretty. So it's not very good for mono displays. So, but if you've got an iPad or one of the new Kindle Fires, it makes an ideal Christmas present for someone who likes to dabble in the dark side of things.
Excellent, yeah, and it's all available still. So before people worry and think that it's all disappearing to the ether, the magazine's still available. So if you do want to get hold of the magazines, they are available from Lebanon Circle. That's
it. And talking about the magazine as well, and obviously how to support the show, and obviously we've had this nice mansion donated to us, which is very great. I mean, it's without a doubt now we've become an established podcast. We'll never go back to producing a regular PDF magazine. However, in the new year, we will be running a Kickstarter, and that Kickstarter will go into maintaining the podcast, buying a little bit of extra equipment for me and Freddie, and also allowing us to get out and about a bit and do some on-site shows and do some reports and reviews from various events around the country. So we understand that obviously Christmas is a very expensive time of the year, so we're not going to run a Kickstarter till the new year. Me and Freddie have come up with an interesting concept. We're going to just put it down as a backer of the Mystic Menagerie podcast Kickstarter. We're going to put it as there's a minimum pledge of £5, and that will get you the brand new, it will get you an exclusive Kickstarter copy of the Mystic Menagerie, where we'll publish stuff that we've had lying around that we never got around to publishing in the past. I mean, me and Freddie have discussed other things. We did discover, didn't we, that you're not allowed to do prizes on Kickstarter. Which is a bit of a pain, because we were going to do 2 or 3 prizes for the best or the highest backer, which we're not allowed to actually do. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple of tiers, and on those different tiers you'll get certain rewards, like signed books, or I might make something creepy. I don't know yet, but it's kind of all in the air at the moment. But it's going to happen in the new year, and it's going to be a great way to support the podcast and get something in return. Definitely,
and that's what it's about. It's trying to keep it going. Do you know what I mean? We want the vibe going. And the magazine, the issue that we're going to give is a special one. It's an all-new issue. It's not a compilation, not previous stuff. It's a brand new issue of the magazine, the PDF magazine. But they are going to be watermarked. So anybody who's thinking of getting one and sending it to their mates, that ain't going to happen. We'll find you, we will track you down. We're going to drag you back to the Mystic Mansion, and we're going to lock you in the basement and, I don't know, invite some like dodgy hostel type people to come round and maybe, I don't know, drill your kneecaps or something for a bit. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not decided yet. Definitely. And make them listen to Ed Sheeran for like 10 hours solid. That'd melt their minds, I think. Definitely. Yeah, that'd kill me. Or Aswad. I think that was always the one. Aswad, yeah. I saw them live. The singles are quite jolly, Don't Turn Around, all this. And I saw them at a festival once, and they were the most boring thing. It was awful, And I can't remember what band was on afterwards. It's someone very mediocre, but they seem fantastic in comparison. Yeah, they are. Usually I like the old Reggie music, Yeah, why torture people with bands like Metallica when you can dig something like Aswad out the bag? And that should push anyone over the edge. Exactly, yeah, definitely. I mean, Metallica's, I think it's the relentlessness of it, because there's no darkness and light to Metallica. It's just one level. Yeah. It's just like being hit over the head with a mallet for hours. But as what is, and Ed Sheeran is like driving you into a coma. Yeah, it chips away at you. It chips away at your sanity. It does, yeah. It's the sort of thing that H.P. Lovecraft would have written about had he still been around when Ed Sheeran and Aswad were around. Unless he is a real demon who's come to sort of lull people's minds. He's a government drone, to make you, apathetic. Yeah, could be. But one thing I was going to bring up as well is also people who want to contact us. Obviously, you can contact us via the Facebook page, which is if you go on Facebook and just type in the Mystic Menagerie, it'll take you straight there, and you can message either Freddie or I from there. We're both admins on there, or you can just you can email us direct, and that is just info@themysticmenagerie.com. So if you want to drop us a line, have any suggestions for features or things on the show, then feel free to drop us a line, and also leave a review for us on iTunes as well, so we can creep up the chart and let Bizarre Magic and the Alternative Arts take over on Apple. Definitely. A lot of people have been confused about how to leave a review, because funny enough is I've only ever done one review on iTunes, and that's for the single by Wagner. Not the composer Wagner as in the Lothario, guy from the X Factor. Yeah, I had to put a review of his single because he's a great bloke, so I know him a little bit as well. But I had put podcast reviews on. It does seem a bit odd. It doesn't seem quite as user friendly. So I don't know if anybody knows how to do that. So yeah, I'm not sure. I've had a look. I can't do it. I don't know if you have to do it via a computer, but I definitely can't leave a review via my phone, which is the thing that I have around, the most. Me too, yeah. Yeah, so we've got a bit of a running theme, haven't we, Freddie, with this show? Definitely. I think because it's Christmas, it's cold outside, unless you're in Australia, then it's very warm outside. Yeah. But Christmas in the UK, it's very cold, very bleak. We've got a weather bomb coming our way, which is snow and blizzards and that. So excellent. Can't wait. We decided it's going to be exciting, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's like I suppose, and environmental or weather terrorism, I describe it. I love it. Yeah, bring on the shit bleak weather. Let's all get locked indoors and get forced into a position where we have to survive for a bit. So of course the theme of the show is, early on today, myself and Dan were outside with an axe. Yes. Not doing the old Lizzie Borden thing and giving anyone 50 whacks, but we were chopping up bits of wood. Because it is freezing here. It is freezing. Yeah, it's so cold. Do you know what I mean? Like a snowman would freeze his nuts off. It's that. Yeah. Do you want some brandy? I've got some brandy here. Please, yeah, hold on a minute. Hold on, just let me. Oh, here we go. Mix a bit of Drambuie and whiskey in it as well. Yeah. And there a spot of vodka. There's one for you. Hold on 2 seconds. That's lovely. Oh,
lovely. There we go. Right, cheers, Freddie.
Super. Cheers.
There we go. Look, 2 cheers.
Fantastic.
That's
Super
brilliant.
duper.
Mince pie as well?
Oh, lovely. Yeah, excellent. It's
you
that
go.
time of year, isn't it?
It is, yeah. These have got extra booze in as well, just to kind of, give us a bit of an extra edge on the podcast. There we go.
Bit of a kick, yeah. Fantastic. Oh, these are nice ones, aren't they?
Yeah, they're lovely, yeah. And as I say, with the fire crackling away, the topic for today's, the running theme through the show is fire.
Exactly.
So,
and that's why we've been chopping up bits of wood, because we've got a nice log fire burning in front of us here, and it made us think there's so many fire-related things that you can bring into stuff, particularly, do you know what I mean? And also we've got a hot interview.
Yeah, and also with Reece Shearsmith's interview as well, there was they did burn a lot of people up on the moors above Royston Vasey.
Definitely, particularly a policeman, yeah. So there's fire is the theme here, It's almost
we didn't burn him.
Definitely. We could have an element show. We could have water. I mean, water won't be so interesting, but I suppose drowning and stuff like that.
Borley Rectory, where we're going to cover.
Rectory.
Yeah, Borley Rectory.
We're going to cover that.
That burnt down.
Definitely.
And we'll also look at the in the paranormal corner. We're going to have a quick look at the crying boy pictures, which of course were cursed, and if you had one, would have had the chance of burning your house down.
Exactly. I mean, they were quite a big. It's the 70s, I suppose. You heard about that more. It's a phenomenon, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
And they were. I mean, you see a lot of them in charity shops and car boots now, don't you?
You do. I tell you what. Why don't we go straight into the paranormal corner now, and we'll have a chat about it.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like it's time for paranormal corner anyway. So there we go.
I would not play with the occult if I were you. One's obsession with it could be the real danger.
Okay, so paranormal corner this month, we're going to be discussing what I suppose is a bit of an urban myth, really, although there seemed to be something based factual in it. It's the crying boy pictures, which they were very popular. Most houses had them, in particularly 60s, 70s. It's that very kitsch sort of painting style, the sad-looking child with the big cartoony eyes.
Yeah, that's it. You either had 2 pictures, didn't you? You had like the Hawaiian girl with the garland round her neck, or
that's
you had
right, yeah.
the crying boy, which was a bit eerie, really. Why would you have a picture of an upset child on your wall?
Exactly, unless you're, Harry Glitter. It's not a picture you'd enjoy looking at, But it seemed very strange because like the one with the garland, the very exotic lady, which is a bit like a 1970s or 60s album cover, one of these easy listening album covers. And my nan had that picture, but not the crying boy one, luckily.
No.
But it developed a very bad reputation, even though it's a very innocent looking picture to a degree. There's a lot of cases of houses burning down that had this picture, isn't there? Wasn't there? There
is, yeah. I mean, the picture is actually a mass-produced print, and it was by an Italian artist called Bruno Amadio, if I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah, it was distributed from about the 1950s onwards. So yeah, if you were around in the 60s or 70s, and obviously the 80s, I think it was during the 80s that it was highlighted that they were probably cursed. The Sun newspaper did a large feature. And I think
that's right.
Yeah, it was in 1985. They actually got a load of firefighters to do an amnesty for the crying boy pictures, because it was claimed that the amount of houses that the firefighters were going to that had this the crying boy picture in, that the houses were burnt down completely, yet the crying boy pictures remained untouched by the fire.
Like a black box almost. You know what I mean?
Spooky. Yeah, and also, there's images of them actually in loads of ashes and soot and just like singed around the edges.
Yeah, and it can be Googled. It's not. I mean, the thing is, it's like I know at the time all the actual firemen were saying we wouldn't have that picture in our house. You know what I mean? Is that serious that firemen themselves wouldn't have it in their house because they believed it to be a risk?
Exactly. Yeah.
More than dodgy wiring. Do you know what I mean? It's very strange at the time, and it's no one really found out. I mean, it's supposed to be cursed apparently, but no one really found out. What was behind it? Whether it was mass hysteria, whether it was coincidental, but there does seem to be a lot of it happened at the time. It seemed to be quite a common thing,
Definitely. I mean, you still see them nowadays. I go to a lot of boot fairs in the summer. I'm always looking for, curious knickknacks and anything creepy that people are wanting to throw out the house. And I have come across several of these crying boy pictures, and I have gone up to the people who are selling them and said, do you know the story about the crying boy picture? And they're completely oblivious to it. But once you tell them they want to get rid of it, they just offer it to you for free. Because I don't know if it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy once you know about it. That say if you knew then that the crying boy picture was cursed and creates fires, that if you took it home, stuck it in the house, and for example there was an electrical fire by accident, you'd just attribute it to the crying boy picture anyway. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's but I can't remember how many they actually burnt back in the 80s, but it was hundreds and hundreds of them. So in that respect, they're quite rare collector's items in a weird way. But I suppose if you collected them, you'd want to go and stick them out in some concrete garage somewhere,
in an old war bunker or something like that. There was a crying boy amnesty, wasn't there, where people who had these paintings all took them to the local area, like a local park, and burnt them all like a bonfire. Yeah. I remember seeing that on the news or in the newspaper about it at the time. It's quite a big thing.
The Fire Brigade actually did controlled destruction of the crying boy pictures. They took them out onto into fields, and the locals would come along and pile high these crying boy images, paintings, and then they'd set fire to them. The curious thing that I always found odd, though, was the crying boy picture is responsible for fires, and in fires it remained untouched, yet they destroyed them all by setting fire to them.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to tally up, does it? It's very strange.
Yeah, because they obviously weren't that fireproof once you've got, I don't know, about 300 of them all piled on top of each other and some firemen pouring petrol on it.
Maybe it wasn't petrol they used. Maybe it's some special sort of goat's blood mixed with a child's ear or something. Some crazy sort of concoction that to burn it with.
Yeah, well,
from some grimoire.
The building research establishment, is that a bit more brandy you've got there?
Yes, got a little bit more brandy.
You drank that quick.
It's so cold, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's freezing.
It is. I was going to say the building research establishment over here in the UK, they actually took away some crying boy pictures for testing, and it was found that they were treated with a varnish that contained fire repellent. So in sort of smaller scale fires, they remained untouched purely because of the fire repellent in the varnish. But I think what the spooky element of the story is are the conclusions as to why the boy's crying in the first place. Yeah,
I mean, there's no real explanation. Well, the artist didn't give any sort of explanation to it or any description about the painting. But I think it was done in a very kitsch way. It's like one of the, there's these sort of Christmas cards you get. It's done in that sort of cheesy sort of way people would hang on their walls. I don't think there's any deep meaning behind it. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like a Hieronymus Bosch painting where there's some significance to it culturally. It's just I don't know if there's an actual child he painted who was crying or it's a real child. No one's really looked into it. That's the thing. No one's really looked into this.
It's definitely not a portrait. If you look at the kid, he is a bit kind of, I don't know, if you, in terms of like modern art nowadays, he looks a bit manga-fied. He's got the oversized eyes and the very rosy cheeks, and so maybe he's not a real boy. So I don't know. Maybe we've debunked our own paranormal corner straight away with the crying boy.
Exactly, yeah. Maybe we have. But it's still mysterious. There's still some mystery attached to it. Why that painting and no other? Do you know what I mean? That's the thing.
I think it's the fact as well that people are very impressionable by cursed objects. And obviously from talking from a bizarre magic point of view, if you tell somebody an object as simple as a painting of a cartoon boy who's crying is cursed and has the possibility of burning your house down, that strikes the fear of, if they're religious, the fear of God into them. And that's just through suggestion. So it proves that you can tie essentially any fictitious story to an object. It doesn't even have to be a creepy object for it to come across as eerie and strange.
And you can go back to the old philosophy that a curse only works if you believe in that curse. If you don't believe in it, it doesn't affect you. So maybe they are cursed, but if you have that belief, then it does burn your house down.
Well, if you are a superstitious person and you've had a bad run of luck, could be anything from stubbing your toe and then ironing your shirt and burning it. There's something as trivial as that to a member of your family dying. But if you have a run of luck like that and someone comes up to you and tells you, well, that's because you've got this object in your house or somebody's giving you this, then I think it's only human nature that you tie those occurrences to that particular thing, or the suggestion of that is the thing that caused it in the first place.
Because in a strange way, it makes reason for people. Do you know what I mean? Something to blame it on. Because people do like to blame something or have an explanation.
It can't be that's just the way things are. And that's
exactly,
yeah. And I think the Crying Boy is a perfect example of that. You know, it's someone's had a fire in the house. It didn't burn because it had fireproof varnish on it, and next thing you know, the whole of Britain is having an amnesty of these cheesy paintings.
And things it happened in the 80s. I think people, like you say, we said in the first podcast, that people's attitudes were different towards the unknown and the weird and the unusual. Nowadays, it's very cynical. You know, would that sort of thing happen these days? Do you think? Could something create that amount of hysteria? Just something as simple as that, or would people just dismiss it as nonsense?
I don't know. I think they probably would. It's probably a social experiment that we could try, pretty much like I did with the mummified fairy. It works even in the modern day. But the big question is, would you have a Crying Boy picture in your house? I know you probably do, you might not like them, but if someone was to give you one, would you take it and stick it in your house?
That is quite a nice little kitsch picture, though. That's the thing about it. I do like my 70s kitsch and tat, and I probably, but then to be on the safe side, you think maybe it is. Do you know what I mean? You would have that worry in the back of your mind that maybe there is something odd about it. We could start maybe an urban myth that Ed Sheeran CDs cause unhappiness.
Well, I think they do.
It could be an interesting experiment with something like that.
Well, what we could do is as well as Mystic Menagerie Mansions is so huge and rambling. I mean, what we've got. I mean, the West Wing. It took me about 35 minutes to walk to the West Wing because I left my mobile phone in there earlier on today. So I reckon if we do get one of these pictures, or if any listeners have got one, send it to us and we'll go and hang it in the West Wing and we'll lock the door. Because to be honest, if a couple of rooms burnt down, we wouldn't really notice any difference in this place, would we?
No. There's how many rooms? About 20 or so. It's a massive place, isn't it? I mean, you've looked around all of it, to be fair, because it's too long. It just goes on forever. So if we could have a really good party here at some point, so maybe that's something for the future. Definitely, yeah. And look into the history a bit in future episodes. But I think, we'll hang. If someone's got one of those paintings, or we'll pick one up, we'll hang it there as an experiment, and we'll actually see what happens.
We are the undead, immortal. Seek out the devil worshippers. Spine-chilling, heart-stopping terror in Twins of Evil, rated R.
Right, welcome back to the Mystic Menagerie podcast. Now, before we get into the Reece Shearsmith interview, we're just going to go over a few events that we've got coming up. And some of you may know I am now the chief organiser of the Doomsday event up in Whitby. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Doomsday is the UK's premier bizarre magic convention, and it takes place up at Sneaton Castle in Whitby, up on the hill there. And it is a weekend of performances, lectures and workshops. And I've been going it's been running for 5 years, and I've been to every single one. And Ronnie Shacknai, who was the organiser, has now handed the baton to me. And I'm now the organiser of Doomsday. So you've never been to one yet, have you, Freddie?
No, I haven't been to one. It's quite a distance from me as well. It's a long journey, and I don't travel well in long distances,
It is a hike. It is a hike.
It's a long way, you know what I mean? And myself being like a chain smoker, and I like to potter about a bit, it's kind of been trapped in confined a car for like 6 hours.
Yeah,
is a frightening prospect for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. Definitely is a long way. I mean, Whitby is certainly out on a limb, and as any Bram Stoker fan will tell you, it's the best place to have an event like that. It's there's the Whitby Goth Festival there twice a year, and the Doomsday event is another dark jewel in the creepy crown of Whitby. It's this year we're going to next year. I'm jumping ahead of myself there. Next year we're going to try and keep it themed more around imaginative thinking and getting bizarrists to use their imagination a bit more and create sort of go back to old sort of bizarre roots, I suppose. As we talk about later on, it's the old kind of sitting around a campfire telling a story type thing, and having less emphasis on props and having more emphasis on being a good storyteller. And I think that is really important, and it's the essence of what bizarre magic is. It's not all about what props you've got. It's all about how good you are at conveying a good story and drawing your audience in.
Definitely. People sort of say to me, who your favourite bizarre is? I don't sort of say some some bloke who does a Dracula-themed card trick. To me, the best, bizarrest performers are Aleister Crowley and Rasputin.
Yeah. Do
you know what I mean? To me, they are influential in the way I feel, the way I think about things, because what they portrayed, his imagination is inspired by these people, rather than a bit of light entertainment.
Yeah,
it's very powerful. So it's a good way to have creative thinking. Is the most important thing, and have workshops on that. Hopefully, it should inspire people a lot, I think.
Yeah, it's not just going to be workshops on creative thinking, but we're going to have topics that create sort of a bit of a motivation and enthusiasm. We've got Prof BC coming all the way from the US.
Excellent.
Obviously, those who are familiar with Lebanon Circle will know Prof BC's effects with his Doppelganger books and his Resurrection Cemetery Gate Key. I mean, his effects and the way he writes his manuals are the best that you can get hold of, and the amount of products and stuff he shifts just reflects that. He's a bestseller, and he always will be. And to have him at Doomsday and have him talking about what he does and also giving a performance is, that's worth the money alone. I mean, it's £35 for the weekend, and that includes your Friday night and all day Saturday, and all day Saturday night if you wanted to stay. And
excellent.
Yeah, we kick off Friday night with Dr. Diabolo's Carnival Macabre. So we're going to have sword swallowers, contortionists, they'll blockhead, walking on glass, injecting acid into veins, just the usual type of stuff. This is the more visual type of Victorian sideshow type of performance. And then on the Saturday, we'll start early. We'll be doing, as I say, lectures, and we've not confirmed all of the acts yet, but I have got some very high-profile guests in the pipeline, and maybe in the New Year show, I'll be able to confirm who we've got as headliners. But it's worth, personally for me, it's worth it just for the piss up on the Saturday night. That's my kind of highlight, 'cause I don't get out very often. So just to sort of socialise with all these people who I only have contact with via email throughout the year, it's my one chance where I can meet people face to face and make a total embarrassment of myself.
Because bazaar is very, very underrepresented in this country, regarding conventions and the like. In America there's some, meetups and stuff like that. I know there's some over there, but I think that, to me, I think Doomsday's the only one really here. It's definitely the biggest one, but it's the only one I really know of.
It is. You get a lot of the secrets crowd going to Doomsday, but there's definitely less of a mentalism contingent at Doomsday. It is more of the creepy, the macabre side of things, the psychic type stuff. Ronnie in the past has done his workshop on readings.
Excellent.
Paul Bell has done seances there. We've had Luke Jamay perform there. So we've had some really great names. We even got Brian Maxwell, who performs every single year. As some of you may know, Brian Maxwell is an old BBC weatherman. And his shows are, they leave everyone speechless, to say the least. And it wouldn't be Doomsday without him.
Excellent. I mean, some good names there. I mean, like I say, Ronnie and Paul, and I mean, they're great performers. You know what I mean? And there's so much that they, to have them there. There's so much knowledge these people have. Do you know what I mean? So, you're getting the best of the best there.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So, I mean, if you're interested in coming along to Doomsday, it's on the 15th and 16th of May, 2015. And if you go to the Lebanon Circle website again and just go down to the products section and drop down to events, you'll see a Doomsday section. There's a couple of options. If you're planning to stay at the venue, which I thoroughly recommend you do, it's a bit strange, and I've told Freddie about this before, it's actually a Christian retreat. So you go to a Christian retreat, which is a castle, and there's nuns walking around, and then you've got about 40 or 50 people clad in black with pentagrams and inverted crucifix and hooded robes on. It is a bit strange, but they seem to welcome us with open arms every year. So you can stay at the venue itself, which is great for staggering back from the bar at night. But if you wanted to stay down in Whitby, one of the many hotels and B&Bs, It's £45 for the ticket because the extra £10 covers your meal and your teas and coffees throughout the day. So it still works out a really good value. And of course, the highlight, you get to meet me as well. So there you go. I say we'll be doing a Mystic Menagerie podcast special from up there. So I'll be going around and interviewing as many people as possible, and we'll be broadcasting that probably in in late May. So people who don't make it, shame on you, can also have a listen and see what went off there.
I feel like they're there. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like a virtual visit to Doomsday.
Definitely. So that's Doomsday. 15th and 16th of May next year, and hopefully we'll see you there.
There was another murder.
The terror of Jack the Ripper lives on, inhabiting the mind and body of his accursed daughter.
You've got a possessed being in your home.
A girl, tainted, fiendish, possessed.
Now we're going to talk about Borley Rectory, and as we've said in the interview with Reece Shearsmith, he's making a wonderful looking film about this. And people in the UK may be familiar with it, but maybe some people in the other parts of the world may not. But Borley Rectory was considered to be the most haunted house in England at one point.
It is, yeah. That's its title, isn't it? The most haunted house in England. That's what it's famed for.
Yeah, and it wasn't that old. I mean, as a building, it was built in 1862, I think it was, around that time. So it wasn't like some haunted buildings tend to be like, centuries old or like 500 or 600 years old. But this was fairly a modern building at the time because it was demolished in 1944.
Yeah.
So the haunting didn't happen. It was a fairly, you think there's not much 50 years or 60 years it had been built and it's haunted in that time. So it wasn't a massively old building. It wasn't a huge history to it, but it was haunted. There was all sorts of things happening here.
Yeah. I think it was mainly because it was, as with the sort of the now defunct and revealed as to be mainly a hoax, the Amityville horror. The Borley Rectory was actually built on a Benedictine monastery, which supposedly dates back to 1362. So that could probably have some explanation as to where the some of the characters that we'll discuss in a moment came from.
Because it wasn't haunted before that, and the hauntings really started around 1929, around that sort of time, didn't it?
Yeah.
Harry Price was he was a paranormal investigator at the time, a researcher. And he got involved in it. He wrote a few books about it.
Yeah,
you read any of the books?
I've not, no, but I've read quite a bit about Harry Price in the past. Being quite a famous psychic researcher, and did a lot on exposing fake spiritualists. So I suppose he's doing on the same sort of thing as what Harry Houdini was up to. The main things I always read about Borley Rectory, it was always featured in every single paranormal book I could get my hands on. You go on holiday and you go to the cheap bookshop in the middle of the village. This was in Shanklin at the Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
And there's a bookshop there, and there's always loads of the unexplained files, and you'd get
that
the
kind
book.
Of stuff.
Yeah, and Borley Rectory, always without a doubt, if you bought a book in the a paranormal book in the 70s or 80s, it always had Borley Rectory in there.
The first time I saw it was the Usborne Book of Ghosts. They were the books I said about in a previous podcast. They were like available in Smiths and all that, and in the children's section, and they featured different ghost stories. But Borley Rectory got more of a feature in it than other sort of ghost stories. It had like a double page spread with paintings and drawings and detail, but it was basically sort of saying this is what happened here. This is a fact. This is facts. And Unexplained Magazine, they did more of an in-depth feature about it as well. But they were on the side pretty much as this is all true.
Yes.
When I read Harry Price, I read one of his books. This is a long time ago since I've read it, but it did seem to be quite exaggerated. You know what I mean? I mean, although there may be some truth in what happened there, it did seem to be exaggerated for the sake of a book.
Yeah, more sensationalised.
It did seem to be.
Yeah, kind of just so you could stretch it out over a book.
It wasn't really questioned in the book, but the book I read, it was very much this happened and isn't this amazing kind of thing.
Well, in those days, things weren't questioned. I think we kind of covered it a little bit in the last show when we spoke about these types of things. But in the 70s and 80s, you could do an investigation into the paranormal without being pulled apart by skeptics as much.
Exactly, and the funny thing about this is it's still pretty unsolved to a degree because people that live in that area are quite funny about it. It's not as if it's something they're proud of. Because I remember hearing, because it was demolished in the 40s, wasn't it? 44, I think it was demolished. I remember the BBC were going to do a program about it, in the 50s, about 1956. It's going to be broadcast. I don't know if they made it. It's commissioned, definitely. But it was cancelled because there was legal action by the widow of the last rector to live in the house. His widow put legal action towards making this programme.
Yeah.
So that's completely cancelled. So people are quite funny about it. I mean, the site is still there today, isn't it? But
it is, yeah. But I think there used to be issues in trying to find Borley if you were looking for it and you weren't a local. It wasn't like if you're a King Arthur fan trying to find Tintagel Castle. You can just, because it's on every sort of tourist map down there when you go looking for it. However, Borley Rectory, if you're a budding paranormal researcher, before the days of sat-navs, where you can just obviously punch in a postcode, it was difficult to find. The signposts were removed from sort of around the village, so it was almost spooky in itself that if you were to find it, you'd probably come across it by accident. Only the locals knew where it was.
And I think it's really strange to how people are so sort of embarrassed about it, really, because I mean, you can understand, like in America, the Ed Gein house, the site of that. There's nothing there to signify that, and it's basically overgrown. So to find it, it's very difficult to find the exact spot. But that's understandable, because what happened there was a real life gruesome thing. It's without a doubt factual. Whereas Borley Rectory's got a sort of mystery to it. A lot of places with mystery to it, or a strange mystical. People seem to be quite proud of that haunted building. In the UK, particularly, haunted buildings tend to be, if a hotel's got a ghost in it, that's part of their advertising. They're quite proud of it.
Yeah.
So for one of the most haunted houses in Britain to be sort of almost glossed over.
But it's had everything, and Borley Rectory it's got the poltergeists, it's got exorcisms, it's got planchette seances, it's got the ghost of a nun, ghostly writing on walls, pleading for help. I think one read, "Marianne, please help me get out," and it's got every single perfect ingredients for an excellent ghost story, and I think that's what grabbed everyone's attention and why it was so good.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's got, if you're making a cake, it's got all the best ingredients.
Definitely. The story behind it's creepy as well, because apparently, when the monastery was slowly built before that, although there's not been any evidence of the monastery being built, but there's rumoured that there was a monastery.
Right.
There was supposed to be one of the monks was having an affair with a nun from a convent down the road.
Okay.
And when the affair was discovered, the monk was executed, and the nun was bricked up inside the convent walls. So it's quite a creepy story behind it, and they're two of the ghosts that are supposed to haunt the rectory, weren't they?
Yes, definitely. And what happened as well, when it burnt down, there is rumours that the activity that was at the house subsided but moved across to the church, and that still remains haunted to this day. It's meant to be, very active from what I can gather. It's not as reported as much, because obviously all the heat was on, excuse the pun, all the heat was on the rectory. But I believe a lot of that activity has moved across to the church, and there's been quite a lot of investigations still, obviously ones that have been arranged. It must be very difficult to try and get into either the rectory grounds or Borley Church with a valid reason to do some sort of paranormal research, because I think it is just so frowned upon.
Yeah, particularly if it's a church. I mean, they're very funny about stuff like that. There's like buildings I've tried to get into, which are old Victorian workhouse churches and stuff like that. But anything to do with the paranormal, they won't allow you anywhere near it. Or if they think, unless you sort of, I suppose, say you're doing something else, I suppose you could do.
Yeah.
But they're very funny about these sort of things. But that is the ideal location. I mean, I'm surprised. I don't know if they've done it most haunted, whether they've done anything there, but I don't think they have.
I don't think they have. No. I'm just trying to think. The BBC did a broadcast. I don't know if it was a radio broadcast or a TV broadcast, but they did it. I think it was in the 60s, but it was from the church. It wasn't the cancelled broadcast from 1956. This was a further one from the Borley Rectory Church. So, and what we'll do is we'll play an excerpt from it. Obviously, we're not going to play the whole thing for, we don't want to upset anyone, but we'll play just a 40-second section, because it is really eerie. You can go on YouTube and listen to the whole thing, but they are actually inside the church, and they set up microphones in the church, and they leave it for the night empty. When they come back the next day, there is distinct footstep sounds. You can hear actual shoes walking across like a wooden floor, and you can hear people sighing as well. And this happens on consecutive nights, and I think on the third night they actually say, okay, well, we're actually going to go in and we're going to do a vigil. and they go into the church with the recording equipment and they sit there and they actually hear things moving around where the altar is, and you hear things falling over, you hear chairs being dragged around, they hear footsteps walking past them, and at one point they see like these small points of light start to appear, and it's almost as if when the actual people on the recording start talking to each other, whatever it is in that room recognises their presence and knows they're there, because these lights then start moving away from the altar and start working their way towards where the guys who are doing the recording are sat. So that is, definitely really creepy. And it's not like today when you get some dodgy bit of EVP or a strange recording where you just hear like a one bang or a shuffle. This is like sort of 20-30 seconds of footsteps and shuffling and sighing. It's, obviously, anyone can sort of fake that if they wanted to, but because it's done by the BBC, you kind of get it's almost got like a stamp of
authority.
Yeah, it's almost like a stamp of authority. It almost makes it genuine that it's done by the BBC and their recording team, because they've got such a good reputation. But what we'll do is we'll put a little excerpt on the show just in a moment, and you can just have a listen and see what you think.
We were so intrigued by these events that we returned to the church the following Saturday and spent the entire night there. Having searched the building once more, we locked the machines in, and already the atmosphere seemed to be changing. 2 of the team said they felt they were being watched by somebody. Now follows the most remarkable sound of all, for quite clearly the centre microphone picked up what obviously is a human sigh. After this, we decided to break the sequence of visits and to try again during summer conditions. We started recording about 1 a.m, and the first tapes revealed the natural ambience of the building and nothing else. But as we entered the church at about 1:45, we all felt a change in atmosphere. I had a definite tingle pulsing through my body, and a feeling as though a presence were pressing against my back, and yet there was nothing horrific about it. We felt certain, however, that this run would produce results, and we were right. It's the most surprising sound we've heard to date, and we were able to locate it as originating just in front of the altar rail. If there is anybody in this church who is trying to communicate with us, we'd be grateful if you would try and do something tonight. Perhaps you could give us some indication of how we can help you. At about 3:20 in the morning, we picked up the sound of faint rapping.
So there we go. There's a small snippet from the investigation into the Borley Rectory Church. So if you just go onto YouTube and type in Borley Rectory Church BBC, you can listen to the whole thing. But it's definitely worth a listen to if you're into paranormal recordings.
Definitely, and also there's more other stuff on the internet. If you look around, there's photographs taken there of ghostly figures at Borley Rectory, and also some of the words, the writing that appeared on the walls. There's photographs of that. So if you Google Borley Rectory, you can find quite a lot of photographs of some very unusual stuff there.
Yeah, there is a ghost photo, isn't there? There's
yeah.
I think it's in the grounds of the rectory. You can actually see it's a figure. It is if you look at it, it is a nun. It's a nun in like a white gown, and you can see
definitely.
Almost I don't know what it's called, but the white headdress that they wear, the band over the top, and it looks like she's walking across the lawn towards the house. It's a very good picture, so that's definitely worth checking out.
Definitely.
But as we say, Borley Rectory now, unfortunately, it burnt to the ground in, was it? I think it was
1939. I think it was.
Yeah, 1939, and it was basically an accident. Someone knocked over an oil lamp when they were unpacking boxes in the hallway, and that was it. It was just so severely damaged. It was never rebuilt, and I think there was some insurance scam. Well, the insurance believe it was done deliberately for some reason. However, that's obviously debatable.
Yeah, and there's also a rumour that I think someone did a Ouija board planchette session on a Ouija board just before it burnt down, and a spirit said, "I'm going to burn the rectory down tonight." One of the spirits that's allegedly there. So,
all right, okay.
That's all on the internet as well. If people want to look it up from there. So it's quite a weird situation overall, isn't it?
Yeah, what I find really odd, and we've spoken about this before, is that given it's land that's owned by the church, you would have thought they'd be quite eager to just do something with the land. I know, like the local church back from where I am in Derby, they knocked the rectory down and sold it to housing developers because it's a way of keeping the church maintained. So you've got this bit of land next to Borley Church that is not used for anything. They've not built anything on it since the rectory was burnt down. So why aren't they going to build anything on it again?
It's strange, isn't it? And also, if they set up as ghost nights there, Halloween, they make a few bob as well,
They would, yeah.
But Borley itself's quite weird because there is a lot of history there. It's a very old place, and there's also, if you look into it, there was witch trials there. Witches were hung.
All right, okay, I didn't realise that.
Yeah, so and that was in about the 1500s. So I don't know, I don't know if it's Matthew Hopkins who would have been in that area, Essex. I think he travelled on that area, didn't he?
Yeah.
But that's happened there as well. So you got witches, you got ghosts, haunted buildings, exorcisms. It's all there. It's all you could want on a holiday.
It is. It's a perfect. It's the perfect holiday venue for a budding bizarrist.
It's the Butlins of the paranormal, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So, hold on. I think that is our doorbell there. We've got someone at the door. So I believe it's probably going to be Reece. So I'm going to go over and open the door, and
brilliant.
Yeah, we'll see who it is. Right, welcome back. And here at the Mystic Menagerie podcast, we're proud to present our first ever interview with none other than actor, writer, comedian, and of course, magician Reece Shearsmith. Hi, Reece.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
That's all right. As I say, you're probably the hardest working person I know. As on my recent trip to the States, you were featured twice in the actual Virgin In-Flight magazine for Inside Number 9 and The Widower. And
yes, yeah. I remember doing an interview that they for a magazine, I think that very magazine, telling them, and they said that you're going to be on two different programs, and I was kind of I thought, God, that's going to be. Yeah,
you had photos for both, and that's more than what Richard Branson had in there, and that's like his company. So it's
right, there you go. That says something.
It does, definitely.
Yeah, and two very varied things as well. One, the real life murderer Malcolm Webster that I portrayed for the Widower, and then my own show, the Inside Number 9, which is the kind of modern day Tales of the Unexpected that we
definitely
did. Yeah,
I know that's one of Freddie's favourites.
Definitely. I mean, I'm a massive fan of Tales of the Unexpected. Inside Number 9, it's like a modern version. I watched it. The stories were so good. There is another series, isn't there, Reece?
Yes, there literally is, and we start filming on Sunday.
Oh,
so yeah, we've got 6 more stories all lined up, ready to film for next year. So it's very exciting. It's great to be allowed to do a second series. I think it's harder than getting a first these days.
Yeah,
it seems to be, doesn't it? I mean, Psychoville had 2 excellent series, and there was going to be a third one, wasn't there, Easter? But that wasn't.
Yeah, there was talk of it, and we had ideas, and we did 2 series and a Halloween special, and then we went in not quite knowing whether they wanted a third one, and then they said, "Oh, what next, guys?" And that was the end of Psychoville, because it was like, "Oh, you don't want it then." So we came up with the Inside Number 9 idea, which is kind of more harking back to Nigel Neal and Play for Today and Tales of the Unexpected and Alfred Hitchcock Presents and Twilight Zone. There is a strong tradition of anthology television, but it's kind of not done these days. So we thought that would be a good thing to kind of revive if possible.
Yeah, definitely. You don't see much of it about. I mean, there's the Twilight Zone. They kind of revamped that a bit on the Sci-Fi Channel, I think. But I've never watched any of the modern ones. I've only ever watched the old classic ones. So
yeah, well, I think the perceived wisdom of them these days is that you don't gain an audience, because I think commissioners think that the people watching television want to return to characters that they know. So with an anthology, each week it's a new story and you get to start again, and I think that they think you're not kind of building an audience because there's no reason to return to it. But
exactly,
I mean, that's rubbish. If the stories are good, that's the reason you want to return, and you enjoy it. It's an enjoyable treat to think, what am I going to get this week?
That concept works really well. I think it does anyway.
Yeah, I think
Variety's excellent.
Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, I really was delighted that they went for it, because, as I say, it wasn't quite a hard sell, but our tone, Steve Pemberton and I that write them and are in them, is a dark quality. So I think if there is an overarching theme, it is that it's kind of got that dark, hopefully comedic edge to it. So I think that's your through line that you return to have more of. So I think there is a kind of link to them, and it's in our work and our sensibility.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I really love about your work, is that you can have something that's got the comedy edge, and then you go to something like The Widower, which is pretty harsh viewing when you look at the reality of it, and when it was actually based on real, true life events. It was.
Yes, I mean, absolutely. For me as an actor, that was a real challenge to even to dare to go there. As a human being, it was such a dark, horrible story of this proper, jaw-dropping.
Yeah,
sociopath that just had everyone in his thrall. Who's completely plausible and a monster, and it was real. And it's a very different thing to read about murderers and serial killers. But then when you actually meet the victims of one, and I met the brother of Claire Morris, who was one of the victims he killed, and it's like, oh my God, this is completely broken your life, and this man did it, and he murdered your sister, and it really hits home suddenly the power of what it really means to be involved in such a thing. It was, I felt the weight of responsibility playing that part, because I was playing him.
Definitely.
And I kind of really wanted to get it right, because there was a question mark over doing it at all, creating a drama out of it. But I think ultimately it was done very well, and kind of really respectfully, in a way where it wasn't sensationalized at all. I mean, it didn't need to be, because it was so extraordinary that this web of lies and this man's behavior was incredible. Still in prison now, and still completely denying he ever did it.
And that's where he's going to stay, hopefully.
Totally innocent. I didn't do it, and he's still denying it.
Yeah, I mean, me and Freddie were talking about, I think it was in the last episode, how difficult it is to maybe do a performance that's based around an event that is still fresh in people's minds. You've still got the families who are still alive. Yet when you do something, for example, based on Jack the Ripper, obviously it's still very real, but it's generations ago, and you can present that in any way you like. You can make a board game about it, which there is, and you can make it almost suitable for child viewing and get away with it. But
it's interesting, isn't it, that the degrees of what people think it's all. I mean, they've already done, a few years ago, they've gone into the Fred West case and did a drama on that. Same
that's right.
People produced it as did The Widower, and that's it's extraordinary to think you can do that so soon. And then there are other ones where you think, well, that's not touchable yet. I think no one's ever done Nilsson.
Oh, hello.
Somebody.
That's Fred.
Sorry, no, I don't think it wasn't out here.
Or was it your budgie?
No, he's asleep.
Is it?
He's asleep. Yeah, he's been singing all day to crazy music. Now he's asleep.
All right. Yeah, I heard like an odd tweeting type of sound.
Yeah,
but no,
was it not someone disconnecting?
No, we're all still here. Yeah.
All here, yeah.
That's good, yeah. No, I recently went on, I'd never done it. I went on a Jack the Ripper walk in London. I thought, I'm going to do this. I did a Radio 4 programme called I'd Never Seen Star Wars, and they ask you to do things that you would think the person had already done. So I said, well, I've never been on a Jack the Ripper walk. So they sent me on it, and then I just had to recount what it was like. I did that, and I did a driving lesson, because I don't drive and I can't drive.
Right, okay.
I did some wallpapering as well, which is another thing I've never done.
Oh, I'll let it go. Yeah, it's abysmal.
But the Ripper walk was really interesting, because it was, despite the fact that, again, it was hundreds of years ago, and weirdly, on the day I was there, it was the anniversary of the double event. It was the 28th of September.
Okay.
Wow.
It's very strange, just quite by accident I was on it on that night. And, or 29th, I think it was the morning of the 29th, wasn't it? But then he never mentioned it. I was disappointed in the man. I thought, come on.
Was it one of the Beefeater ones?
It was very strange. It was a young kid with a top hat on.
Oh, right.
And I trotted through it. It was kind of quite good, but it was all a bit throwaway. I thought, you've learned this by rote, and it was packed though. That was what I was the first thing. It was absolutely heaving with people interested in it, tourists, and
they rake it.
Thought there'd be, I don't think there wouldn't be that many people, but it was loads of people. It was really people really fascinated still. And one of the curious things about what I detected going round them all is on all the sites now, on all 5 sites of the canonical 5, they're near or on schools.
Really?
Isn't that weird?
That's crazy.
Yeah, really odd. I mean, it's just like a strange accident that's occurred.
Yeah.
They were not schools at the time, obviously, but just now, in modern day, they're all really near schoolyards.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Very strange.
Yeah.
It is a bit odd. I mean, you go outside Tower Hill Station every night of the week at about 6 o'clock and you can't move for people all ready to go on a Jack the Ripper tour. And I didn't realise there's that many sort of schools that close around, sort of Spitalfields and that.
Yeah, I think they were. It was like he never pointed that out. It occurred to me afterward. It was really creepy. But yes, it was interesting to think. Yes, here we are going around, trotting around, kind of enjoying it in a lascivious way. But this was murders. These were murders. And it's funny how it's just kind of like a acceptable thing now, isn't it? They did Christie in the 1970s, and he was done he was caught in the 50s, wasn't he? So sometimes it takes 20 years. I've never done Nilsson. I'm waiting for someone to do Dennis Nilsson.
He's really close to you, wasn't he?
He's really close, yeah. I live right near him. And he's a amazing serial killer.
His house was up for sale, though, wasn't it, this year? They were selling the house, and there was no qualms about this stage and saying, this is Dennis Nilsson's house, it's up for sale.
That's right, yeah. Some of my friends went and actually viewed it, just out of ghoulish interest, the flat and the gardens, yeah. And the estate agent felt obliged to tell them. He said, "Now, have you heard of a chap called Dennis Nilsson?" They said, yes. And he said, "Oh, so good. So you know what he got up to?"
Yeah.
That was how he broached it.
We've still got pots and pans in the cupboard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's to actually make a drama about that, you have to get the rights to Laurie Anderson's Superman, surely.
That's
a
right, of course,
film,
yeah. Sitting there with his headphones on. 9
minutes long to boil a head, apparently. And that's the duration of that song, isn't it?
Right.
I've not tried it myself, but...
Not a human one, anyway.
An egg timer for him, wasn't it?
Yeah, so every time I hear that song, you think, I could be boiling a head while I listen to this. When you go on these Jack the Ripper tours and there's a lot of people there, it kind of loses the vibe, doesn't it? Because there's lots of tourists around. You can't sort of soak up the locations as much as you do if you're on your own.
Oh, yes, I felt that. I felt it was a bit swift. We went round them, and some of them, I think about 3 of them, you can't really get near them anymore, or he just didn't take us to them. And he said, "It's over there." And I thought, "Oh, that's a shame," because I wanted to actually be on the sites. But some of them now, I think one of them is in a car park, and it was all locked up, so we couldn't actually get to the exact point where it was. So some of them were kind of slightly off, but it was fascinating, and it was kind of a great experience to walk around the streets and think, "God, this is all where it happened." It's such a fabled thing. You feel like, the amazing thing, I went to the exhibition at the British Library. There's a Gothic exhibition at the minute of lots of horror stuff, and in fact tomorrow I'm doing a reading of I'm going to read The Monkey's Paw for an audience there. They're getting a few speakers to do various Gothic readings for the night. But one of the amazing things in the exhibition is they've got the Dear Boss letter, the actual one.
Wow.
So I literally went up and I was looking, I touched it. It was literally under glass.
Yeah.
And there it was, 1888. Incredible.
I saw that exhibition. I saw it when a bit of information on it when it first came out. And some of the stuff there is unbelievable.
It's really good, yeah.
They've got some Bram Stoker original manuscripts and stuff.
They have, yeah. They got, when Bram Stoker wrote Dracula, he was terrified that the rights to the play would go, so he hastily cobbled together a play of it, and it's literally there in the library. And all it is cut and pasted the extracts from the book, and a scribbled thing in between of some kind of rubbish dialogue. And it's really kind of cobbled together thing. But it was just so that there's the play I've done of it. You can't touch that either.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to check that. When does it finish?
It finishes, I think, at the end of January.
Oh, okay, bags of time then.
Yeah, but I would, any interest in Gothic and horror, I would recommend it. It's really great.
Yeah, I'll have to make a trip in, especially for that one, I think. Take a day off work and go and have a look. Maybe I could meet you up there, Freddie, or something.
Definitely, yeah. And Reece, what's the creepiest thing you've ever seen? The thing you've seen the most, like a real artifact that's fascinated you? You thought, wow.
That's interesting. I mean, there's some stuff in the, the Museum of Witchcraft in Cornwall, in Boston.
I know it very well, yeah. I know it very well, yeah.
There's some creepy things in there. Some of those little dollies with the pins in, and some of the kind of even odd little things like the mandrakes that they've got in there that are really old. They kind of they feel scary to me. They feel like they've got a history, and I'm quite happy that they're tucked away behind glass in those museums.
Yeah,
definitely. When I went the first time
about it. Yeah.
When did you first go there? Was it recently or?
No, we know and have gone and visited Boscastle for years, since the early 90s, I think. Yeah.
Because in the 70s when you went there was a skeleton of a witch Because I went there as a child, you know what I mean? I was about 7 when I went there.
Yeah,
and as you go out,
right. Well back.
The real skeleton.
Well, a witch's skeleton, or
yeah, and what it is, they've buried it. They've given her because now you're very right on about these things. You can't portray someone's remains, you know. But as you go out as a child, there's a skeleton in a coffin, just there, you know. But apparently they buried her on the hills nearby. But in the 70s, it's called the Witch's House rather than the Witchcraft Museum.
Oh, right.
There's a skeleton there.
Wow.
yeah, you've got kind of Wookiee Hole is like it's not close to there, but it's en route into it if you go through Somerset, I think.
Yeah.
And didn't they found a skeleton of a supposed witch in the sort of lowest region of the cave, I think. I've always found that quite fascinating as a kid as well.
Yeah, Wookiee Hole's creepy as well.
Yeah, Wookiee Hole is creepy.
Yeah, anything to do with witches, I suppose. It's I don't know. You get bombarded with the Disney type witch, and as you get older, you know, do they just lose their I don't know, creepiness, for want of a better word?
Yeah, there is something very creepy about witches if they don't. I mean, it's great in one of the kind of most horrible depictions of it is the modern coven in Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah,
which is a really frightening thing. You can hear them chanting through the walls and everything. But yeah, it's an underused thing. I think that could be. We've always tried to do something with witches, never quite got there. But I think it is something that we could that you could do a great scary drama on. I suppose they did it with Blair Witch a little bit. But and there's this new American thing, Salem, isn't there, where the premise is that the Salem witches were real.
Yeah.
I've not seen any of it, but I just saw a trailer and it looked really good. But I'm not sure what it's actually like.
No, I'll have to look into that one.
American Horror Story Coven is based on witches as well.
That's the one I missed. I followed all of American Horror Story and I dropped it at Coven. And I don't know why. I must catch up with it. I don't know if it was any good.
It's very good, yeah. Stevie Nicks is in it, and she's a witch. So you can't really argue with that. Yeah.
Excellent.
But a lot of the stuff, the anthology stuff, going back to like Inside Number 9, it does remind me of the stuff when I was growing up. Probably you're the same. There's a lot of great anthology programs on TV, like Beasts and Thriller and Armchair Thriller and Tales Unexpected. Was you immersed in that a lot as a child? Did you take a lot of that in? Yeah, completely, yeah. And I think there's a lot of such a love for that in our collective mind. Steve and I, we just wanted that back on television. It's such a great thing. I mean, Armchair Thriller, the only titles, one of the most terrifying opening title sequences ever, with the shadows going down the arms of the chair. And I still remember them to this day. You know, the Martin Jarvis one where someone sends him a chocolate box full of dog shit. That's right. It's horrible, and there's some really disturbing thing, and they've always stayed with us. And those little twists in the tale, they really informed my kind of love of surprise and kind of television that really takes you on a journey. And you know, when you're not expecting things, it's so rare these days, I think, because everything is spoilt, isn't it? And they don't ever let you. They'll show you the best bit because they want to drag you into it. But we have this battle every time that we do shows where we want to keep it a surprise with what you're going to see. And a lot of what we do in these Inside Number 9 stories, certainly it's reliant on you going in cold and not knowing it. Otherwise if you get a little synopsis in the Radio Times that just kind of tells you beat for beat what you're going to watch, you just watch it and go, oh yeah, that is what I read was going to happen. And there's nothing to it, it's enjoyment. So exactly. You really try and keep it back. And it does bring that back, because I mean, when I watched it, I watched it completely cold, and you didn't know what you were going to get each week, and that's the most exciting thing about it as well. Because it did remind me of watching TV, that quality TV years ago. Because I think it was higher quality, the sort of storylines in those sort of programs, and what it is, you're the only person that's getting the essence of it now. Yeah, well, that's I'm glad you've said it, because we did want to try and get that kind of that event television where you're excited to watch the next one, and it's a real treat to see something where you're kind of leaning into it. And some of them were very silly and knockabout and almost like the Chuckle Brothers, but other ones were much more kind of psychological, and then others were just a bit more full out horror. And that's just us and enjoying and being allowed to do the genres that we love, and I think like-minded people just kind of appreciate that, and I think we come at it like we're fans of it, and I think that hopefully is what brings people on board, because we don't try to churn it out. I think it does feel special when you watch it. We try to make it feel that way because we really, really care about it. It comes across very well, because I'm a big fan of that genre as well, and watching it is, you don't know what's going to, when you start watching an episode of Inside Number 9, you haven't got a clue what's going to happen. As a viewer's perspective, anything could happen in it, and that's what the old programs used to have as well. So to see that back on TV, which is refreshing for me as well. You know, particularly the twists and turns, and there's areas you go into which you don't mind going down some very dark areas, which a lot of TV is quite sanitised these days, particularly dramas, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's born of kind of smuggling quite disturbing themes and into a comedy, because our programmes always come out with the BBC comedy department, and yet I think in a drama you might be more ready to take it, but I think because it's comedy you're really wrong-footed by some of the areas we go into, and I think that's great because it really pulls you up short, and it's maybe even more powerful because you're not expecting it in the half an hour on BBC Two and apparently a comedy, and where you might be expecting if it was at 9 o'clock on BBC One, it was given to you in the guise of a drama. You just think, oh yeah, this is about child abuse or murder or something, but then with a comedy and you're trotting along quite funny, and then to pull the rug from under you, I think it's thrilling, and you feel really alive because of it. And I think that we've always striven to try to just make telly that kind of makes you sit up and think, God, I might not like this, but it's really knows what it is, and it's really sure of itself, and I think and it packs a punch. And
it keeps you coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope so. Yeah.
Wasn't League of Gentlemen? I think was it season 3 where it was individual stories that all tied together at the very end. Along a similar line, you had the individual stories that all intertwined, but for that one episode, it was an individual tale that unfolded.
Story, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And we did that because we thought, well, we've done 2 series of kind of a sketch show with a loose framing device of the town, and then we thought maybe. I think kind of to ring the changes and not our greatest fear in anything we do is that people think we're repeating ourselves or we're treading water. So I think we just wanted to try and ring the changes and think of a different format. And it was risky to do that with the League characters because people like certain ones and don't like other ones. But in the format of a sketch show, you're flitting around each character and you get your character that you like coming along thick and fast.
Yeah.
But with the 3rd series, it was like, this one is Pauline's episode, this one is Lance's episode, this one is Jeff's episode, and so that was a little bit of a risk because you were staying with predominantly a character. If you didn't like them, in some people's eyes that episode is written off. But I just thought it was a nice experiment because all the stories were converging in this one incident at the end, so it was kind of like a repeat of the action, and we were trying to tell the stories from different perspectives. So we were just playing with the genre, really, playing with the format, and in a comedy that's quite unusual, I think.
Yeah. Any chance of another League of Gentlemen season?
Well, yeah, the next year, horrifically, it'll be, I think, 20 years since we began it.
Wow.
Which is mad. I mean, since we began it for us, I mean, not since we began it on television.
No.
2017, but so we thought we might begin to set the wheels in motion about doing something again, and it might not be Royston Vasey and those characters, but certainly as a project with the League, which is me and Mark Gatiss and Steve Pemberton and Jeremy Dyson, gathering back together to do something. Yeah, and I think that's definitely something we'd all like to do, because Mark now does Sherlock and he's involved in Doctor Who, and we're all doing all our own things, and so all it requires is for us to go, right, from this date onwards, we're doing a new League thing.
Yeah.
Don't do anything else. Don't take any other work on. That's our project. And it just requires us clearing the decks and going, right, this is it. We're doing it.
I mean, it's amazing from the League of Gentlemen that you've all sort of starburst now and you're all individual projects, but those individual projects are so popular at the moment. You know, they're all out there, and you know, obviously, you know, you said Sherlock, Doctor Who, Chasing Shadows. You know, is it Steve involved with Benidorm and everything?
Yeah, Steve does Benidorm, and Whitechapel. He was in that.
Whitechapel, yeah. I mean, from that seed, so many amazing things have grown.
Yeah, it's a lovely thing that we've managed as individuals as well as the group to carry on just involved in television. I think it's really hard, and it's lovely that we've all had successes in our own rights rather than just having had the League in our past. I think it's really hard to ever continue doing things that, wow, you know, you can only arrive once really, but I think to have anything that a second go where it's remembered as well or revered, I mean, it's a lovely thing that it's not just like you're a one-hit wonder, and you know, anyone else would be very happy to have League under their belt, but it's lovely that we've managed to do Psychoville and kind of fulfill that kind of narrative drama. I mean, that was based on Steve and I wanted to kind of do like a Dexter or a 24, but in comedy, where you can't wait to watch the next one and there's a cliffhanger at the end, and that was our big narrative kind of story. And then this one is another, passion of ours with these Alfred Hitchcock Presents and Twilight Zone-y little stories with these little stings in the tail. So I'm very lucky because I really feel like I'm playing at trying to recreate the comedy that and the television that I loved growing up.
Definitely. It's it reintroducing it to the next generation. Our kids and stuff. They're not. If nobody like you does it, they're never going to be exposed to that kind of great sort of TV.
Yeah, watching Mrs. Brown's Boys otherwise, wouldn't they? Do you know what I mean? So, thank you, Reece.
You're very welcome.
One thing that's very interesting that you're working on at the moment is this Indiegogo project for the Borley Rectory. Yeah. I mean, I know Freddie and I think we may have brought up the Borley Rectory at some point. We've definitely spoken about it. It's like in the 70s and 80s, everyone knew what Borley Rectory was. It was like the UK's Amityville, sort of.
Absolutely, yeah. And it was such a huge... I'm sure in all our lives, the fable, the Borley Rectory that we all read about in the Usborne Book of Ghosts, with that double-page spread in the middle of the layout of the building itself.
Yeah.
And that was when I first read about it, and it was like, my God, what's this? And it's so classic in all its hauntings. It's got a nun and a headless coachman, I think, all coaches in the garden, and the Marianne writing, and it is like the Mount Everest of haunted houses, wasn't it, with Harry Price?
Definitely. So, just the name's creepy.
Thrilled to be part of it, yeah.
Just the name Borley Rectory is creepy. I always found it as a kid. I think it's virtually in every sort of paranormal book I used to buy when I go on holiday. I'd always go to like the bookshop and pick up any book to do with the unexplained. Borley Rectory was always in there, and it always caught my eye just purely because it sounds eerie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and the thing, the film by Ashley Thorpe is this rotoscoped. He's kind of animating it. So we've done some on green screen.
Yeah.
And then he's kind of animated it into this kind of beautiful looking black and white, flickering, old looking cartoon. I mean, I'm there when the actors are there, but all of the rest of it, he's animating kind of painstakingly behind us and putting it all in with the story of Borley and the witches, almost like a pop-up book. And that
pop-up book section where it unfolds and the rectory's in there is amazing. It looks fantastic.
And I just saw it on Twitter. He just tweeted about, and I don't know why it came in my timeline that he was trying to gather together. It was at that stage just the poster, and it was a really beautiful kind of green tinted poster with a very amicus with a skull in the middle, and I thought, God, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And it was Julian Sands was doing the narration, and I just retweeted it and said, good luck with it, it looks amazing. Because then I looked at some of his artwork from the other short cartoons and animation he'd done, and then I just kind of muscled in, and we got talking, and he said, you want to be in it? So it was absolute thrilled to become part of it.
Yeah, it looks amazing. I mean, it's funded as well, hasn't it? It's at the moment it's 4,000. About 4,500 of its 3,000 goal. So, yeah.
So you're certainly going to do it now. Yeah, I think it's going to be a half-hour thing. I'm going to take him forever because he's so exacting. But I think it'll be fantastic because even though that few minutes that he's done already is so engaging, I think it's beautiful to look at. I've never seen anything quite like it. So I think it's really suited to the subject matter as well.
Yeah,
it's stunning. Cool. Yeah, what I've seen so far. I mean, I try my minds in it. Steve First is in the film, isn't he?
Yes, he is, yeah. We've not done any bits together. And Jonathan Rigby as well, that was great authority on horror. And he's playing Harry Price himself, and I play V.C. Wall, who was the Mirror journalist that first got Harry Price onto the story. He went first, and then he said to Harry Price, you've got to come and investigate this building.
Excellent.
Because there's a lot of mystery and confusion and doubt now about Harry Price and whether or not he was kind of fanning the flames, and whether he was legitimate or not, and whether a lot of what was happening was hoaxed. But, that's all part of the mystery now, isn't it? I think it's such there's such a mystique about it.
There is, yeah. Even the Borley Church is meant to be as haunted as the rectory, or definitely when the rectory burnt down, they think a lot of the activity moved across to the church.
Oh, right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a BBC recording of, I think there's about a team of 3 or 4 people who spend about 4 nights in the church recording audio, and they record footsteps and things falling over, and they start seeing these little balls of light floating around the altar, and it's really creepy because it was recorded in the 60s as well. It's got that authoritarian feel to it, and these noises are occurring, and it just sounds amazing. It's definitely one to listen to. I think you just go on YouTube and have a look for it if you just put in Borley Rectory or Borley Church recordings.
Oh wow, yes, I will.
Yeah, they're definitely creepy. And someone mentioned as well, because of the kind of activity that was cracking off at Borley, and it attracted so much attention, that you can't actually find it. I know you can nowadays with sat-nav, but say 10, 15 years ago, if you were just going to get in a car and say, let's go to Borley, it'd be quite difficult to find, because they've actually taken the signs down to stop ghost hunters and paranormal folk turning up and, flooding the village.
Right.
So
it's a strange thing that went off the radar a little bit.
Definitely. I mean, hopefully this project, once it's all filmed and it's been released, will definitely bring a bit of shed some more light back onto the Borley Rectory and inject a bit of public interest back into it. Yeah,
because it's funny that that's never been tackled as a film or a drama, has it? Particularly not that case.
No.
It seems really fertile for someone doing a proper full-on drama about it.
I mean, if you look at I think the Warrens even came to Borley to have a look at it.
Did they really?
Yeah, but I don't think they actually came till about the 70s, which was really odd because obviously it burnt down. So if you look at the Warren interview, they talk about how he was unlocking doors and stuff, and I don't think there actually was any doors there because it was just a ruin. So I think it's a bit questionable, the Warrens' visit. But if they can make a film about Annabelle the doll, which is just a doll, there's plenty of mileage in the Borley Rectory. Yeah,
of course, yeah. And then a sequel with The Conjuring was first, and then Annabelle was the doll. Yeah, I've not seen that. Have you seen that?
I've not. I saw The Conjuring, but it's just, the kind of Warner Brothers girls in 90s with long hair it's formulaic. It's not really my cup of tea.
No, I saw, I agree. I saw The Conjuring. Did you see The Babadook?
I've definitely got to see that. I've heard a lot about it, and I've heard it's amazing. Have you heard about The Babadook, Freddie?
I've heard about it. I've not seen it though yet. I tend to have an aversion to modern, Hollywood horror films.
Well, this
isn't a Hollywood one. It was kickstarted, wasn't it? And it's an Australian independent film.
Yeah, it's very good, and the premise behind it's great. I mean, I felt it. I'm not going to say much about it in case people haven't seen it, but and I really did enjoy it. But there's just a few niggles with kind of having their cake and eating it, with whether or not it's supernatural or whether it's in the minds of the participants. But it's really good, and some really great in-camera scares that you don't normally get in horror films these days.
Yeah, it's more I think someone said it's got a bit of a fairy tale feel to it rather than horror.
It does, yeah, it absolutely does, yeah.
I think on Kickstarter as well at the moment, someone's looking for funding to get to make the Babadook pop-up book out of the film.
Part of it, and it's funded.
Has it?
They were trying to get 2,000 people to get the book, and it's been already done.
Excellent.
So it's happening I think it's going to take 5 months for the book to be done, but they're making it. Yeah, the actual pop-up book itself, which is really great. It's a fabulous, really creepy thing.
Yeah.
So I just thought I've got to have that.
Definitely. So, with the Borley Rectory then at the moment, are you filming it at the moment, or are you waiting until the actual the Indiegogo project finishes and it's like then you get the green light, or is Ashley working with you at the moment on it?
He's working on what we've already shot, which we've done some, but there is still yet more to be filmed on green screen. And when the money time allotted dries up, whatever, I think there's a cut-off point, isn't there, to the funding. And as you say, we've already got it, but it's just going up and up all the time. So I think he'll just keep going with as much as we can get, and then he'll reschedule the rest of the filming.
Yeah.
And then from having those raw elements, he can go off and fill in the backgrounds, because it's all literally just on green screen. I was there with a typewriter, and everything else was just on green screen, which is quite unusual to be filming and imagining or looking up at footsteps and looking down corridors and things.
Is that the first bit of green screen you've ever done, or?
There's been bits and bobs over the years in things just to create effects and stuff. But yeah, that was kind of in its entirety, the entire world being recreated around me. That was kind of the first I've ever done. Yeah, it was interesting.
It must be amazing to watch it back, knowing when you've sat in front of the green screen, and then you see yourself sat in, for example, in Borley Rectory, like the 3D model of it, and walking around. It must be really strange.
It's really good. Yeah, it's really a thrill to kind of think, God, none of that was there. But it is a real skill in the acting. You kind of begin to admire all these, the endless green screen they must do on Lord of the Rings and all these big films, where I know it must be impossibly boring. That's what I felt about it ultimately. It kind of not like acting, kind of like a different skill completely.
Because going on location and filming somewhere interesting is part of the enjoyment of the job, I would have thought.
Yeah, and it's just easier if you're in the room. Other if it's screen and you're looking at little dots and squares and crosses in the sky. Yeah. It's really hard to kind of make that leap of imagination. But I mean, I suppose that's another skill, isn't it?
I mean, some of the places that you filmed in, League of Gentlemen and Inside Number 9, you must have been to some really quite eerie, creepy places.
Yeah, I mean, we have kind of sought out some odd-looking, quite sometimes desolate areas and stuff. And it's funny when you get there, it's kind of thriving because there's a crew wandering around and there's 30 people, so it never feels as creepy as it might, but some filming on the moors was always quite creepy in Derbyshire, going up there and doing the local shop stuff, because the shop was just 3 sides. It wasn't ever a real place, but it was in the middle of nowhere on the moors, and we burnt it that night when we had to do the burning of the shop. It was like command.
Yeah, it's very bleak up there. I mean,
freezing. That's what I remember about it on Snake Pass.
Oh, right, jeez, yeah.
Yeah, totally, absolutely, bitterly cold.
You've got all the plane wrecks from World War II up there as well, haven't you? When they used to come over and bomb Rolls-Royce, so they used to sort of fly back over, and because it's a plateau and it just becomes so high so quickly, it's just full of crashed World War II bombers up there and tales of pilots wandering around in the mist. Yeah. It's a real spooky place, and I love it.
It is, yeah. I mean, I love all that.
Being a local person and all that.
Yes, of course, yes.
Yeah.
You'll never leave.
No, definitely. I try. I'm the only one who has left. Put it that way. Yeah, all the rest of my family is still up there.
Yeah, well, they're trapped. They're local.
They are forever.
Have you ever cut a character, Reece, before you thought, that's too far, I can't do that? A really good idea, and you thought I couldn't get away with doing that?
I think we've been quite good at self-censoring, really. I mean, there's been, in the last Inside Number 9, we had a whole episode that was set entirely in a very claustrophobic episode in the wardrobe, during a game of sardines. And it was, when we first did the draft of this thing, it was basically that was the idea. We thought, wouldn't it be funny to see an empty wardrobe in a room, and then over the half hour, people join, because that's what sardines is as a game. You're looking for people, and you find them, you stay with them. And we thought, just 12 people slowly filling a wardrobe is quite a funny conceit, and they've all got funny characteristics, and you could get some humour out of it. And then we kind of thought, and we got to the end, and we thought, it's all right, it's quite funny, but it's a bit too light. It's a bit too frivolous. So we went back and we just very carefully seeded some the feeling of dread about something that happened in that room and in that wardrobe, and we put in this kind of last minute really reveal of one of the characters. It's all about child abuse. Very dark for a comedy, but it really just instantly elevated it into all those kind of the jollity of the game was kind of completely imbued then with this terrible secret that was being kept and was revealed at the end as our twist. So I think that really just suddenly helped it. And that was a very tough decision to dare to do it. We thought, can you do this? It's horrible. But I think we did it very carefully and very judiciously. Watching back now, it's so lightly seeded all the way through it that it's very lightly sketched in. You could almost miss it. But it's there and it's revealed at the end. But I thought, this is a scary thing, but I think we're handling it correctly in a manner that is responsible, because we very early on in television, and we've done a few of these programs now over the years, you do feel the responsibility of these things and these ideas that you have do get piped into people's houses, and I think we are quite careful in what we do, and I think it's more powerful if you hold back. It's like swearing. If it's used carefully, it's really brilliant. It can be very powerful and impactful. You do it all the time, it's nothing, it becomes meaningless. So I think the same applies with great horror if you carefully show the monster. It's why I love kind of Twin Peaks, and I love David Lynch's stuff, because it's always slightly, the things that are disturbing about the way he does things the sound is amazing in a lot of his things, and the monster or the thing that's frightening is often just a bit far away to see it, so you're peering at it to try and work out what it is. And that's the case with all the great Christmas ghost stories. You know, they were all filmed so brilliantly and so frighteningly. I still think the Woman in Black TV program is so much more frightening than the film.
The Daniel Radcliffe one. Is it the BBC Christmas one that they did? That one.
That's right.
That's it. Their TV one. Yeah. Really, absolutely brilliant. And again, it's that thing of they know exactly what they're doing. Same with John Carpenter and Halloween. I think the first one when Michael Myers is just stood at the end of quite far away behind a bush. Yeah. And then you see him very briefly among the washing.
The washing line. Yeah.
And it's so simple, but it's terrifying.
It's like with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Everybody swears blind they saw the girl being put in the meat hut, but you don't see it.
Yeah.
But when it came out, everybody thinks they saw it, even though it wasn't actually there. It's implied, and it was edited so well that it looked like you saw it, but in your mind retained a memory that you actually saw that happening. So the psychological side of it's strong.
Very powerful, yeah.
I always liked, when I was a kid, is it Forbidden Planet, the one where there's a monster, but it's invisible. You only see its footprints.
Yes.
But then it gets illuminated by that force field around the station at the end, and then you actually see a faint outline of it, but that's all you ever see.
Yeah, it's really horrible, isn't it? Yes, I remember.
It's like the big Space Invaders, like the fuzzy monster on the old 80s arcade cabinets. Yeah, I always thought that was really. It used to be on about 6 o'clock at night. I think. Well, it was on at 6 o'clock at night when I saw it, and I remember it scared the crap out of me as a kid. And
well, like the original Thing as well. That was very frightening. When it came out of the ice and you saw the shape.
Yeah. Well, even the John Carpenter one, I thought retains that desolate, sort of isolated feel to it, and trying to contain it before it gets anywhere else. And
And I think a lot of what we're talking about as well is completely applied to, bizarre magic and the portrayal of in a good bizarrist, if you want to call them that, will completely paint a picture, and it's doing that thing in with words and taking someone on a journey, imbuing everything that you're saying in your storytelling with import and putting peril into what's being said. So it matters when you get a reveal or you get an outcome that you weren't expecting. So and that's just all you do with drama. Our sketches became increasingly, from being comic sketches that had a quick beginning, middle, and end, we realized quite quickly in our writing that the worth of applying character and having you care, so that when things happen to them, it matters. And I think that's, if you can do that with your magic and your storytelling, that's all the more powerful, isn't it? When you've laid it on a plate. So I think that's what all you're striving to do, is make a connection.
It's make people care about what happens as well, and engaging them with the story. It's like when someone's doing, say, a mentalist routine with envelopes. It's engaging people, because when I see some mentalists performing, they've got envelopes on stage and they're being very clever, but it's hard to connect with that. It's like watching a mathematician. You can respect it, but you're not drawn into it. Whereas with a bazaar or something that's based on myth or legend or there's a story behind it, you start to get involved in it. You feel drawn into the story. And it's the same kind of a thing as with drama, isn't it? If you care about it, you're interested in it, it's getting the emotions going, rather than just being impressed by something.
Absolutely, yeah. And they can be the easiest method, or the most simple. When told what it is, it's kind of like all it is the four aces and being transposed to the top. But you wrap it up in a story that's with some tarot cards and give it a whole history of these cards. I was given these cards by a man at a fair, and he told me that I should never do this, but I'm doing it to you now because I tried it. Just start to draw them into something that they shouldn't be seeing. And it's intriguing, and you lean into it, and you're intrigued. You feel like you're getting something that no one else is getting, and it's always great to have those kind of. That's why I love, and I'm an avid collector, as you know, of all the stuff you make, Dan. I think everything can be so imbued with story, and they're just intriguing just to look at, you know.
It is. I've always thought it's a bit like sitting around a campfire telling a ghost story. Sometimes, sometimes that story is enough. However, if you can create some visual aspect to it as well, like a prop, or even a prop that actually does something, even though in magical terms it does something very simple. The fact that the story has drawn the audience in to a point where their focus is on you entirely, then that is the cherry on the cake, and that is pure bizarre. At its very best.
Very powerful to completely paint the picture in their minds of a story that maybe has a music box in it, or a medal, or a small book or a doll, and then produce it at the end, because they say, oh my god, that thing that I've completely had in my mind is an artifact, and it's there in front of me, and that's, you've given it a proper weight and worth.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that, actually, because I've discovered that is a very effective thing there, Reece, because I exhibit weird artifacts on, like shrunken heads and stuff like that, and I used to sort of show them to people, but I found out now, if I talk about it for like 10 minutes in the history of shrunken heads, how they were made, and how hard they are to come by, and then you get the shrunken head out, the impact is so strong, rather than just putting it out and saying, look at this.
Absolutely, I can imagine that, because you kind of, you're painting a picture, and then it's almost like, I can't believe my eyes, he's got one.
Yeah.
I think absolutely right. I can imagine that being really powerful.
Exactly, because I was booked to do like a psychic night at this wine bar. It wasn't even underground. It was like with lights and everything on. We were doing Ouija board sessions in this wine bar, and this shrunken head. When I got out, there's about an hour of it of people just taking pictures and talking about this shrunken head. The fascination with just an object alone, because of the story behind it, because of the history of it. It fascinates people, and it's the reveal of things.
Yeah, and I think it's exactly the same as the freak show circus acts and the Fiji Mermaid in behind a curtain.
Yeah,
there's this amazing thing. You've got to come and see it, and then you go in, and there it is before your eyes, and you can't not. You've got to go in, haven't you? It's kind of so intriguing to see the thing itself.
Yeah,
exactly, and it's like the same with Inside Number 9, like the episode you spoke about, the sardines one. There's something implied all along, and to finally have revealed what it is.
Yeah.
Again, it's the build-up to it. It's that, like, there's something there, and you're intrigued. What's going on here? And you want to know what it is, and you become, it's something sinister, but you're more curious. That wants to see what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and if you can kind of hold off and keep people hooked.
Yeah, I think everyone has morbid curiosity, though, don't they? I think it's something that every single person has. If you say to someone, "Don't look in that box," whatever you do, don't look in that box. It'll like make your blood run cold or disturb you for the rest of your life. If you leave that person in that room with that box for 5 minutes and you leave, they'll go over and look in the box because they're driven to look in it. It's human nature.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think people are fascinated by the unknown or the unknowable, or something that's going to potentially frighten them. I think there's a thrill, and it's a very old feeling, I think, that people have. I don't know what it is, but people have got the nightmarish quality of a story that kind of frightens you, but you return to it and you want to read it again in a strange way, because it kind of it made you feel alive in a curious way. Is a really weird but kind of compelling thing to go through, I think.
Definitely.
I think there's less of that now, because you've got the internet and people analyse things too much. A lot of the mystery is taken out of things as it used to be. There's explanations for everything, isn't there?
I think you're absolutely right, yeah. And I think people, a bit of the fun has gone from it, because it's all like, well, that's, this is explained away by this. I think this is why I hope that we never really find out that all ghosts are just a slight brain shift, and they know that there's nothing there actually, and it's all just in the kind of quality of what's in the corner of your cornea of your eye and stuff like that. It'd be awful if that's all it is. Yeah, it's just got it away.
I think the best explanation I've seen for a ghost at the moment is the end of Interstellar. But I'm not going to do any spoilers or say anything. But if you've not,
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, if you watch Interstellar and remove the space element of it, and then look at it as a possible life after death explanation, it kind of explains quite a lot, and it's definitely food for thought. It's a good film.
Oh wow! I shall look into that then.
Yeah. Right, Reece, I'm conscious that we're eating into your rehearsal time this evening.
Right. Yes. Well, I'll go and learn my lines for the new number 9s.
Excellent. Lovely. Brilliant. Well,
I hope I haven't been too boring as your first guest.
God no, definitely not.
that's great. Good. I'm glad. Well, you can edit out the boring bits.
I'd keep recording, as long as you're there, to be honest. Because I really always enjoy talking to you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, and I hope you have a nice chat after this as well.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks a lot for joining us this evening, and good luck with the Indiegogo project, which I believe finishes on the 15th of December. So this podcast is probably going to go out on Monday. So anyone listening to it will still have the opportunity to go onto Indiegogo and back the Borley Rectory Returns project. So. And I'm sure Ashley would really appreciate that as well.
We would, yeah, and have a look at the little bit that he's put together, because I think if you see it, you'll think, oh yeah, I'd like to see some more of that. It's a really beautiful kind of little film. I think it deserves all the backing it can get.
Well, we'll post the link on the Facebook page so all the listeners can click on it and have a look.
That'd be brilliant.
And thanks again, Reece. It's been really great.
Reece.
Nice.
It's been great.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.
Yeah, take care, Reece. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
I'm telling you that thing upstairs isn't my daughter.
You tell me you know for a fact that an exorcism wouldn't do any good. You tell me that!
The one hope. The only hope. The Exorcist.
Another creepy piece of music has come from people you probably wouldn't expect to produce something quite sinister, and that's the Beach Boys.
Okay.
Or more specifically, Brian Wilson, who's the genius behind the Beach Boys, really, as such.
Yeah.
Because there's a story about this track. The track we're talking about is called Mrs. O'Leary's Cow, or Fire. Because in the late 60s, Brian, obviously, he retired from touring. He had a bit of a breakdown. He was writing the songs, playing bass, producing them, doing everything, and became a studio hermit, just made all the music from the studio while the rest went and toured. But he's a bit in competition with the Beatles as well, because they were like the leaders in the UK, so they bring out, I think it was Rubber Soul, and Brian came back with Pet Sounds, which is an amazing orchestrated album, fantastic. So he wanted to top them, and produce like this psychedelic masterpiece. And they were working on Sgt. Pepper. At the time, he was taking lots of LSD. As you do in the 60s, you know what I mean? And he started doing weird things, like he had a sandpit in his house to help him compose songs in. He put a piano inside a sandpit in his house.
Okay.
And of course, the sand got inside the piano strings, meaning he couldn't play properly. But he had lots of dogs as well who used the sandpit.
Oh, right. Okay.
And then he built an Arabian tent in his living room, decided to only have business meetings inside this Arabian tent. So he's going a bit eccentric, eccentricity version of mental illness,
Yeah, losing the plot type of thing.
Completely to a degree, But the music was still fantastic. And he's working on his album was called Smile, that he's working on, this masterpiece. And the first single that they released from it was Good Vibrations.
Okay.
Which was a massive #1 everywhere, because it used theremins on it, a weird instrument nobody really uses. It was structured really well. It was a whole way of writing. He was composing in the studio by piecing bits of music together. But the album Smile, he had a chap called Van Dyke Parks writing the lyrics with him. So there's some quite mad lyrics on this album, quite abstract stuff. And one of the tracks that he recorded, he's in a suite of the Elements, 4 songs basically relating to the elements. One was called Wind Chimes, obviously about wind, very nice song. One was called Vegetables, which is the earth element.
Okay.
Cool Water, which is the water one. And he had this track called Fire.
Okay.
And the actual track's called Mrs. O'Leary's Cow, because there was a big fire. I think it was in California or something. Well, this cow kicked a bucket over, which had burning embers in it, and caused a massive, like the Great Fire of London sort of thing, and this massive fire happened. But when he recorded this music, basically the music itself is an instrumental track, which has got vocal harmonies in the background, where you've got rising vocals, and these strings that get higher and higher, and it's supposed to symbolise fire. The actual music itself. So when it starts off, there's those whistles and bells and stuff like this, which is like the fire engine clanking away and going to the fire. And then these strings are supposed to sort of be, like how flames rise and go up and down.
Yeah.
The music's supposed to capture the essence of flames, but via strings.
Okay.
But it's very sinister, When he recorded it in the studio, obviously in his sort of drug-addled haze, to get the vibe of fire, he made all the orchestra wear plastic fireman's hats. And they had buckets in the studio burning bits of wood to get the smell of fire, so they could get the whole vibe of it. Which is, if you're a creative and you're out on the edge like that, that's probably a good way to get people's creative juices flowing.
I would have thought so. Yeah, it's it's a bit like like an actor getting into the mode of being a certain person. They go away and do the thing that the actor is going to do, like, I don't know, like Sylvester Stallone being Rocky would go away and be a boxer and do boxing training and get into the swing of things. So you can imagine in a recording studio that it doesn't sound too unusual that someone would do that in order to get the orchestra into the mood.
Definitely, particularly in the 60s, when it's a case of anything goes and quite an experimental era, particularly the late 60s, you know. But when he recorded this music, apparently there was loads of fires happened in LA that night.
Okay.
Like buildings. It's probably coincidental, but loads of fires happened. And he freaked out in this very fragile state of mind. He thought this music had caused these fires. He thought it's powerful, you know, music with a powerful energy to it, like a magical energy to it.
Yeah.
And it's rumoured that he burnt the tapes, which ironically, if you don't want to cause fire, it's music about fire. You wouldn't set fire to tapes. So there's rumours for years that this music didn't exist anymore, and he hadn't, you know, he didn't want to release it, he didn't want it released to the public. After that, the album got canned because when the rest of the Beach Boys came back, particularly the singer, didn't like the album. They said it's too far out and all this kind of stuff. So Brian said, I'll give up, you know, let them do what they want.
Yeah.
And basically he become very much more of a recluse. He put on loads of weight, grew a beard, which you tend to do when you become a recluse.
Yeah.
And disappeared and into a sort of a cocaine-fueled haze in the 70s. The odd song from Smile appeared on random albums. When the Beach Boys didn't have much material, they'd go into the vault, dig one of his songs out, add some more vocals on it and whack it out. But in the late 80s, someone has gone in the vaults to bring out like a Smile compilation, or see if they could finish it. Some producer, I think someone who worked with them, and they discovered that the fire tape wasn't lost, it wasn't destroyed, it existed.
Oh, right.
And I remember being a fan of the Beach Boys, and a bit of a Beach Boys nerd, really. You know, I wanted to get hold of this bootleg that came out, so I went to a record fair and got hold of the album. It was like a CD actually, and it had Fire on there.
All right.
And it's a creepy piece of music, you know.
And can people go away and listen to it today after they've heard this? Is there somewhere they can go online? You
can get it online, because what happened is years later, I think when he came out of his problems a little bit, Brian, started touring again. His wife said to him, why don't you try to do the Smile album? Why don't you try and actually release it to the world? So with his current band, it wasn't the Beach Boys, the band he's got now, he re-recorded the whole album.
Okay.
So you got his version of Fire on there, and then after that, the Beach Boys realised, hang on a minute, there's money in this, and brought out the Smile Sessions, which is like a compilation of all the material left in the vaults from the original session. So Fire is on there as well.
Right.
So you can hear it on his album, or you can hear the Beach Boys version on the Smile Sessions. And there's also a DVD out, a double DVD. One's a concert of Smile, where Brian performs it live with the whole band wearing the plastic fireman's hats, and a great documentary with basically a lot of stuff that I told you just now, and other bits and pieces about the whole album itself, which is a very fascinating documentary. But it's a sinister piece of music. It does sound like fire. It's quite panic-inducing, I'd say.
Is it something that you could perform to? Has it got I mean, I've not listened to it. I need to go away and have a listen to it, but does it have vocals or? No,
it's like harmonies going da, da, like harmonies in the background, you know.
Yeah.
But basically what it is, it starts off with these clanking whistles and bells, and then it's the strings, just get rising strings, and the drums are thunderous on it. I don't know what drum sound they use, but it's this real sort of cavernous sort of drum sound, and it's so, and if you play it loud, it's crazy, and it's avant-garde music. It's not what you'd expect from. It's not Surfing USA. To be fair.
No, definitely not.
You know, it sounds like some avant-garde experimental band producing some very frightening music, and it could work as a horror film soundtrack. You can imagine a film with a serial killer going on a rampage with this music playing, the sort of sounds he's having in his head. It's really mad music.
It's not something you'd expect from the Beach Boys at all, is it? It's
certainly not.
It's like on Elton John's was it Goodbye Yellow Brick Road? There's that Funeral for a Friend track, which is
that's right, yeah, and he starts every gig with that
as well, does he? It
is an eerie piece of music, and every gig he starts with that.
Oh right, okay, I didn't realise. I
saw him a few years ago, yeah, and he gets to sit at the piano, little Reggie, and plonks away on Funeral for a Friend. But,
I was never an Elton John fan, but I think my dad realised that from an early age I got an interest in all things creepy and strange, and he was like, have a listen to this. So got his Elton John album out and stuck that on for me, and it was. I remember it thinking, I actually quite like this. For an Elton John song, I can listen to it.
And it is quite a creepy piece of music, quite dramatic. And it's weird because when I've seen people before, like Bizarrists, talking about music they want to use in performance, it's music that's not very creepy to me. It's very corporate rock music. Oh, I'm going to use Marilyn Manson. And to me, that doesn't really create a creepy atmosphere. You know, it sounds like Hollywood soundtrack. That's what I think. When someone says, when I see a horror film and they've got like a rock song blaring out, it takes me out of the film.
Yeah, you want something that's uneasy, that's something that's as alien to the ears as what you're seeing is to the eyes, to assault all the senses.
And the music that I've found intense and edgy is never rock music. I never find rock that edgy because it's got that very MTV feel. Do you know what I mean? The drums, bass, guitar. It's too like Throbbing Gristle. It's coming from a really weird area, you know. Yeah. And so is this Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys track. It's not what you call conventional pop music. There's nothing to grab onto. You know, it's when you're in a weird situation. If you were in a haunted house or in a situation that was frightening, your senses, you wouldn't know you'll be confused. Your sense of reason would be gone. And people like to latch onto something that's reason, so they can latch onto it and feel safe. You know, if you listen to something like Throbbing Gristle, Hamburger Lady, or the Beach Boys, there's no sort of melody or that's conventional. There's no sort of guitar riff, verse, chorus, middle eight. There's just this weird music, and it just throws you and takes all your sort of security blankets away.
I would say that's one thing that threw me when I went to see Interstellar a few weeks ago, is that the soundtrack is all like church organs, which for a space film is a little bit strange. There's no stirring, like 2001: A Space Odyssey type of strings and big orchestra. It's just like a blaring church organ and like piano riffs, and it is an unnerving soundtrack. And I definitely recommend that as well for bizarre performance. If you wanted to do something that was quite intense and unusual, then that soundtrack is definitely one for the the iPod.
Definitely, along with the Eraserhead one, which is a soundtrack album, which is basically sort of loads of boomy noises, bits of dialogue, and one song. That was quite an intense soundtrack as well. But I find that sort of music works better. It's like with Clockwork Orange. He's into classical, he's into Beethoven, and played on a Moog synthesizer, which makes. But if he was in, I don't know, AC/DC, it wouldn't be such a good film. No. It wouldn't have that surreal element to it or that creepy vibe to it, because it doesn't seem quite right. This young hoodlum's into classical music. It's mixing thuggery with culture.
I think that's that the music in that film definitely stands out as an iconic point of the film. You'd recognise Clockwork Orange purely from the soundtrack, and it's the same with the opening track to The Shining with Jack Nicholson. That really odd opening track as the car winds its way through the mountains, and there's the really strange. It almost sounds like Native American Indians sort of screaming in the background.
That's it, yeah.
With a weird droning sound and that kind of. I don't know what instrument it is, but I know the Cult used to open with it. They used to play the Shining soundtrack at the beginning of their gigs, and then you'd get the whole audience going na 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 na, all chanting the theme to The Shining, which is just strange, because then they go straight into something like Sun King or something rocky like that. But
Sanctuary or something.
It's odd. But sorry.
Yeah, what's very strange about it is I think it's to do with the notes that are used in this music. I think because I went on this workshop years ago with a witch. It's like a witch taking this workshop, a very famous witch actually, and it's all about how the energy and power of music.
Okay.
And what she said was that if you hear major chords, your skull resonates in time with itself. Like your brain and your skull resonate in vibration with each other. So you hear stuff like C, G, like major chords. I suppose something like One Direction or also the early Beach Boys stuff. It makes you feel happy. The Beatles is also sort of when you play a minor chord, that makes your brain resonate in your skull in different sort of levels. So you feel a bit uneasy.
So you're it's like they resonate out of sequence, so out of phase almost. So I can understand that.
It evokes emotions. Like D minor would make you feel sad and that kind of thing. So if you get very erratic or very discordant music, it makes you feel uneasy because it's making your brain resonate differently as well.
Because you can listen to some pieces of music, even if you're a pretty emotionally numb chap like myself, you can listen to a piece of music you've never heard before that will also automatically start to make your eyes well up, and you don't know if you're welling up through emotion or just purely psychologically through what the music's triggered.
Yeah.
It's happened a few times, and you can't put your finger on it. It's almost, as you say, is it because something's resonating internally that's causing this physical response, or are you actually emotionally touched by the music? I don't know. It's a whole new concept for another show, I reckon, in that one.
Definitely, because music played at high volume can create hysteria. You know what I mean? Like you see the Beatles and things like this in the 60s, people going crazy. Just this music can have that effect,
Yeah, well, like a rave. If you go to a rave, it's it's I suppose with dance music, you are going back to primitive music with a regular repetitive beat, and people dancing till they essentially collapse.
It puts you into a trance, because like when people dance like in tribal culture, it's like a banging of a drum, and this is just like the consistent program of a drum machine, but it's the same sort of thing. It's this repetitive, and you listen to it, and you end up your brain becomes in a loop as well, and you become in a trance. So
and your body gets in sync with it.
Definitely, that's what I think happens, and it's very rhythmic, And I think when music is rhythmic, people feel okay with that. When music's very harmonious, they feel okay with that. When it's very discordant, it makes people. So I feel the most powerful music for feeling creepy, if you are going to use music in any kind of performance, is to avoid stuff that's rhythmic, avoid stuff that's melodic. Go for discordance. And I think any time that, if you want people to feel really uneasy, the creepiest music is discordant music, I think.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I had a request once off a customer, because I come from a sound engineering background as well. That's what I actually did my degree in when I left the armed forces. He actually wanted me to build a low frequency rig that he could use as seances to output infrasound, basically. So sound of such a low frequency that it can't be heard by the human ear, but will resonate certain parts of the body at certain frequencies. And I was like, you don't really want to be doing things like that and messing around with people's, like resonating people's eyeballs so they potentially have hallucinations, or even worse still, resonating certain vital organs in order to make them feel nauseous or make them collapse. I was just like, that I think that's probably out of what I consider to be ethically correct.
Someone did write a book about that, because I think I remember reading ages ago, and I may be wrong here, that the Nazis were going to use sound warfare, which was blasting certain sounds at certain frequencies, which either sort of like gave people migraines or made them collapse or caused brain hemorrhages. Maybe people are doing it. And Robbie Williams' voice seems to have an effect on me, where I feel a bit nauseous every time he sings. But have you heard the brown note before?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, it resonates your basically your sphincter muscles, that you can't control them anymore, and you end up filling your pants. Brown sound.
Having a brown accent in your underpants.
Yeah. So, there's a very famous story about a good example of a standing wave, which is basically when one cycle of sound gets trapped in the dimensions of a room, which are exactly the right dimensions to trap that one single wave, if you know what I mean. So if you picture a sine wave, it goes up and then it goes down, and then draw a box around it. That is essentially what a standing wave is. And what will happen, that sound will just bounce backwards and forwards and just keep sort of increasing in amplitude, even though the amplitude is not audible by our ears. The power of the wave increases to such a point that it will actually interfere with the human body. And there was a lab, I'm not sure what country it was in, but these cleaners in this lab wouldn't go in at night because they kept saying they were seeing things in the lab. And one of the scientists who worked there thought it was all a load of bollocks. And he said, well, I'm going to work there tonight, and there's nothing wrong. I've never seen anything there. So as he was working there, he came over all sort of uneasy, and he had a cold sweat, and he could feel himself go clammy. And out of the corner of his eye, he saw a pillar of mist about 6 foot tall start moving across the room towards him. Wow. So he obviously, wasn't too happy with that, and he left and went home, and then had a think about it. And he went back the next day, and he was working. He was building some form of apparatus, and there was a piece of metal in the vise, and this piece of metal was probably about 1 meter long. And all of a sudden, this piece of metal started to slowly start moving up and down, and then started undulating to the point where it was sort of moving up and down, really in extreme, in an extreme manner. And he got an oscilloscope in there and figured out that what it was, there's an industrial fan in the room that was causing this low frequency sound, and it was causing a standing wave. And it just so happened that the dimensions of the room were exactly the right size to contain this standing wave, and it amplified it to such a point that it interfered with people's perceptions of what they were seeing, what they were hearing, how they were feeling. And I do believe that if they were to look into that more at, when they were doing paranormal investigations, especially in underground locations where you get sound echoing and being trapped, I wouldn't say 9 times out of 10, but there's going to be a high percentage that low frequency sound is going to be to blame at some point.
Well, definitely. Yeah. I mean, have you heard of sudden arrhythmic death syndrome?
I haven't. No.
Apparently, it happened about 5 years ago in the UK. There was a student, I think, in London, and he was complaining. I think he's at a rave or something like this. But he's complaining that the bass notes were very loud, and it was getting to his heart.
Right.
And he suddenly dropped dead.
Right. Okay.
And the inquest, they reckon it's natural causes, but some people said that the bass notes could have acted as a trigger.
Okay.
So although it wasn't in the inquest as such, some of the experts around it said the bass notes could have triggered this heart condition. So it's vibrating so much that it was going into his internal organs. So I don't think it's a fairly common thing that's happened, but it has happened.
Yeah, I mean, you go to a big gig, and the kick drum goes off, and you do feel it throughout your whole body. So I can understand that, that would happen. Obviously, a rare occurrence, but unfortunate. I can't see any other explanation for it.
No, very strange. But yeah, sound can affect people in very strange ways, So yeah. I do think, what's the creepiest song? Is there anything you heard as a child, a bit of music, which you thought, I can't listen to this, and it's giving you nightmares, just music alone?
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, because my mum will always say every time it comes on the radio, "Oh, when you were young, you used to scream and cry when this came on," and it was Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall.
Really?
Yeah, and I remember to this day. I think it was partly to do with the video as well, the visuals.
Oh, it's creepy, wasn't it?
Yeah, with the teacher putting the kids in the mincing machine, and there was like some. It's so long since I've seen it, but I remember like a block of flats and like a dragon or something. It was
a teacher. He's like a puppet of the teacher with like light bulbs for eyes. Because it was on telly the other day. They had on BBC 4. They have these old Top of the Pops 1979. They showed that video there, and I thought it's so creepy. Those days, do you know what I mean? That was number one. It was on telly all the time.
Yeah,
it's mad.
But if you're like, how old? Just maybe have a quick look when that came out. Another Brick.
79.
79. Okay, so I was 4 then. So as a 4-year-old, and with all the upbeat music that was around then, with ABBA and all of that crap, and then all of a sudden you've just got this ding, 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 ding. That kind of chugging along kind of. I can see that it would have scared the crap out of a 4-year-old kid, especially with that video as well. But
the kids singing on it as well, yeah.
Yeah.
So I always remember as a kid. I mean, it seemed to be prog rock that groups were going to do this. Is when I was it's the early 70s, about 74. I was quite young. I was obviously, being the age I was, into things like Slade and T-Rex and that kind of stuff. But my uncle was older than me, and he was into prog rock quite heavily. Like early Genesis, Pink Floyd, and that. And in those days, people were very into stereo. It's like there's these diagrams. You put one speaker here, and you sit directly in the middle to get the full effect of the stereo.
Okay, yeah.
And so as a kid, I'd go over Nan's, because he lived there at the time, and he'd say, "Oh, come up, listen to this. It's amazing, how the sounds go around the room." And he sat me down, and he turned the lights down, completely dark, and put on this track called Toccata by Emerson, Lake and Palmer, an album called Brain Salad Surgery. It's a great album, but the album cover's got like a skull on the front. It's an H.R. Giger painting. Okay. Which is, the guy who did Alien. It's a creepy picture in itself. The cover opened up, had like a circular hole in the middle, and there's this skeletal woman's face in it. But this music is an instrumental with Hammond organs and these thunderous drums. It sounds like the gates of hell being opened, the sort of music you'd play if you were on a chariot going at the gates of hell.
Yeah.
And as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid, and having this sort of played at you full volume in darkness, it was horrifying.
Yeah.
I can listen to it today, but there was no vocals in it. It was just a horrifying piece of music. Listen to that one. It's crazy. It is mad.
And I think if any listeners have got any pieces of music that they either use in their performance because it is eerie, or have something that we might find interesting, then drop us a line and we'll definitely cover it. Yeah,
somebody suggested Nick Cave, but although I don't find his music creepy, because I feel that it's more he's trying to be dark. I don't think that he's got a dark soul. I think where something like the Beach Boys, he's suffering from schizophrenia and mental illness. There's a lot of real genuine darkness going on in his mind.
There's a lot of difference between having a dark sort of persona and being dark, and actually being physical or actually mentally dark yourself. So
I see Nick Cave as like a professional gloom master. Do you know what I mean? I don't really think his life is that bad. I think that he sort of dresses up, puts a black shirt on, and sings songs about death, but there's no story behind the songs, or there's anything happening behind them.
No.
Whereas I think with like Robin Gristle, they are crazy people. Do you know what I mean? They are not people you would want to be alone with at night.
Definitely not. You'd let Nick Cave look after your kids, but you wouldn't let
Genesis
be always look after them. No. Cool. Well, on that note, I think it's time now for a little interlude by our very own E.R. Perkins, who's
Fabulous.
Kindly done his adaptation of a poem called Pork Pies by Jackie Kay.
Parlor Ghost Stories. Pork Pies by Jackie Kay.
We're not together anymore. After Bobby Baxter followed us home, drank our pop and ate our mini pork pies, he had 5. Our whole life changed. We kept him in our room, upstairs, taught him our special tongue, watched him flash up on television, missing 3 days, 4 days, 6, 7. On the last day, at 90 degrees Fahrenheit, Robert James Baxter looked out our high window and waved. He had been warned. Bad Bobby. And some ugly, nosy Parker looked up, some pain-in-the-neck village golfer. Putt, 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 999, a hole in one. Next thing, the policeman at our door, our mum there in her brassiere. The loose language of gin, opening and closing her mouth, her eyes narrow and fierce as a bird's, a seagull's fury, calling us down, Hannah and Helen. Never Helen and Hannah. We dressed in the same black patent leather, shoes shining like mirrors, our checked gingham dress, its pink and green squares. Our jet black hair parted in the same center, our East Coast identical accents well spoken. The village plodder held up the picture in the air. Have you seen this boy? No, sir. We said together. Pause. No, sir. Big boys in blue searched our room, but Bobby Baxter, beautiful Bobby Baxter, wasn't found till 5 days later.
Hi, how are you? What's your name? Bobby.
So there we go. That was Pork Pies by Jackie Kay, read by E.R. Perkins. I'm sure you'll agree that was suitably spooky for our Christmas show, don't you think, Freddie?
Definitely. Perfect, in fact. Perfect. So this time of year, it's Christmas. People get very sentimental. I think it's jolly. So we're bringing a little bit of darkness in there, adding a bit of shades to the light,
Yeah, I think even the BBC have stopped doing their Christmas ghost story. It's not, where is the spooky element of Christmas gone? That's where I want to know.
Definitely. Well, it's right here, isn't it? In the Mystic Menagerie Mansion. It will be creepy Christmas every single year.
It's creepy all year round here. It is Halloween every day of the week, and I suppose as we move our stuff in over the next few months, it's just going to get even creepier.
Definitely, it's going to get darker. But yeah, I mean, it's been a fun show, and it's been a fun year. And it's like I say, thanks to all the people that contributed to the show. Like a big thanks to Reece, who was fantastic.
Excellent. We can't thank him enough for that. That was unbelievable. It's
incredible, and thanks to E.R. Perkins as well, who great contribution there. So it's been a great show. So yeah, thanks to those two very special people who made the show a very exciting one.
And I think we'll be back. Probably we're going to be back probably before New Year with another sort of Christmas show. I think it's going to get quite quiet and boring between Christmas and New Year. So I think we should stoke the fire up again and stick out another show for our listeners. What do you reckon?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Because we want to make the podcast as regular as we can, so that, do you know what I mean? That there's some sort of structure to it, and people can listen to it and enjoy it. And thanks to the people that have listened so far and supported us so far, because we really appreciate it. It's a new thing for us, and it's exceeded our expectations in the response and the amount of listens we've had. So.
Yeah, I mean, we've done 3 shows in best part of 8 weeks. So, some years we never even put 3 issues of the magazine out. So the fact that we're just able to sit down, do this, and engage with our audience is just, it's unbelievable. And I think it was the best move we ever made.
Definitely, and it's good fun as well. So.
Cool. And on that note, I think I'm going to go up to my room now. It's I've had a few too many brandies, I think. So I'm going to retire to my opulent bedroom in the East Wing and get my head down for a few hours for a long winter's nap.
Definitely, and I'll go have a few more sherries and look for this poltergeist that's supposed to be outside.
All right, cool. Well, cheers, Freddie. Merry Christmas.
Excellent. Merry Christmas.
There we go. And Merry Christmas to all of our listeners, or Happy Holidays, or a Happy Solstice, or whatever you want to call it.
Or whatever it is,
Yeah, whatever. Have a good time, and we'll see you very soon at the Mystic Menagerie podcast.